2025-2026 Division of Revenue Bill, vowing to stand firm on the Senate's proposal to allocate counties 465 billion shillings. There were chaos in the Nairobi CBD as Treasury CS John Badi presented his budget estimates in the National Assembly. Newly installed dustbins were destroyed and 2 vehicles torched as protesters resorted to destructive measures to express their anger over Albert Ojwang's murder. The protesters demanded justice and the resignation of Deputy Inspector General Police Eliud Lagat, whom they alleged orchestrated the killing.
Stop killing us! Stop killing us! Before you read that budget, you have to bring accountability to those people, to the perpetrators that kill Albert Ojwang.
Lang'ata inafaa kuwekwa jela right now tunaongea. Hiyo ndio demand ya kwanza. Lang'ata kamatwe. Watu waachane to the finance bill. And I'm telling the youth of this nation, we are stronger than before. And kama wezi pay justice priority, your finance bill, we are going to throw it away and we don't need it.
Badi sent his condolences to Ojwang's family and appealed for calm, emphasizing that investigative agencies were working to ensure justice is served.
The issue that is outside is unfortunate about the death of Ojwang, and I think the other arms of governments are dealing with this, but our hearts go out for the parents of Mr. Ojwang. It was very unfortunate. It shouldn't have happened. But again, I want to caution that our youth, as we exercise our democratic right, we should understand that others also have democratic right. And there is no important right as that of listening to how the government wants to spend your taxes and raise those taxes.
In the National Assembly, MPs observed a moment of silence in remembrance of Kenyans who lost their lives during last year's anti-finance bill protests. Meanwhile, IPOA is expected to summon Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat for interrogation of Ojwang's murder. IPOA Chairperson Ahmed Isaac Hassan said the authority has already interrogated 23 suspects and witnesses over the killing. And Inspector General Police Douglas Kanja told a parliamentary committee that Lagat will only step aside once he's implicated in Ojwang's murder.
There is an ongoing investigation by IPOA. And in these investigations, every person whose name will be mentioned is to have played any role that led to the death of the late Albert Ojwang must record his statement, must show his side. And it is on that basis, I believe, if the DIG is going to be mentioned, then definitely he will write the statements, and I believe it's on that basis that now he can be able to step aside.
Israel has carried out strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, its ballistic missile program, and other military sites. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran was a threat to Israel's very survival. Israel has long threatened to carry out military action against Iran's nuclear program, accusing Iran of building a bomb in secret without providing evidence. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamir.
2.5 SpiceFM, Kisumu.
The following takes place from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every weekday on SpiceFM.
One of the things that are ailing our country is negative ethnicity. You find you as a state officer, instead of thinking as a Kenyan, you think like a tribal person.
Let me tell you something. The biggest problem we have had in this country is a leadership deficit. There is nothing that you are going to do in the process of change if you are not a risk taker. So you really have to pursue your vision to a logical conclusion and even be ready to step on people's toes.
When it comes to the economy, you can run away with it. They say statistics are like bikinis. They reveal a lot, but they conceal the vitals. And so government people would throw statistics at you and tell you they're revealing a lot of information to you, but it's really concealing the real vitals.
We need to get out of that, because when we want to grow our democracy, one basic thing that really requires to be understood by the political class, by all of us, is institutions are critical.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Waliletea fujo Moi mpaka wakapata cooperation. Wakakuja wakasumbua Kibaki mpaka wakachukua nusu mkate. Wamekuja wakazungusha Uhuru hapo mpaka wakaenda na handshake, program yetu ikapotea, BBI ikaendelea, tukazama, tukaingia kwa madeni. Sasa mimi nimewaambia hii serikali hii, mimi nawaambia hii serikali ni ya mahasla. Hakuna nusu mkate, hakuna handshake, hakuna hiyo borojo.
Jana nimeona wale wazee tulishinda. Ati hiyo mzee akisema ati he will not be coerced or intimidated to joining our government. Wewe mzee sikia. We have no business within our government. Hatuna haja na hatugojei wewe. We are not looking for you and we have no time. Stop saying that people can force you to come to this government. Forget about being forced or coerced. We are not interested because sisi tuko na kazi ya kufanya.
Kama kuna mtu ako na namba ya William Ruto, arekodi hii video mtumie. Maisha yangu tangu nizaliwe sijawahi kuona mtu muongo, mfisadi, baradhuli, dhabdhabina kama William Samoei Ruto.
Mimi Hassan Joho nikitaka kuongea, mimi I don't even dream of engaging with them. Ati huyu akitaka aje aongee sio na mimi niongee na Ruto nini? Mimi nikamtafute atanipa nini? Wilbaro. I wonder. Nilipeleka Wilbaro mimi la kimtaani la kucheza nalo zamani.
We have a choice to reject over 60% of these names or give President Ruto his skunk. Apart from a few individuals who are not even more than 8, the rest are incompetent, unqualified, have integrity issues, are people who cannot deliver this country from where it is to the next level that we want the country to move in.
A few moments later.
Now forwarded the name of John Mbadi Ngongo to the Ministry of National Treasury and Economic Planning. The Honorable Hassan Ali Joho, Ministry of Mining, Blue Economy and Maritime Affairs.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
In this country, 6 families and 8,000 Kenyans control 90% of the GDP. We are not a country. We are a plantation. We work for Ruto.
When you're telling the judges court orders are papers or they will not obey court orders, they're sitting and you're seeking orders from them. So how are they supposed to interpret it? Isn't it an oxymoron?
When you see a judiciary that seems to be under some control somewhere, you start questioning. We have very powerful governors, but they don't use their offices to serve the people.
If you are not shameful to do what you are doing, why should we protect you?
I'm human. Everybody's human. So when you're told, kuja tuongee, I mean, you'd be a fool to say, stagi kuongea. Conversations have to be had, you know?
People in leadership should only go into leadership if they are ready and willing to change the lot of the people.
The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Good morning this Friday. A quick look at what's happening with traffic on the roads this morning. Getting into the weekend with just a little bit of traffic starting to form on Joko Road. Probably not going to see anything too crazy, at least not for now. It's also starting to build on the Thika Superhighway as you come into the city. A smidgen of traffic getting just at around Survey. If we look on the western side of things, coming in from Westlands, all the way from Kangemi through to Westlands and then into the CBD. Not an issue here at all. Flowing free and clear. See what happens as we get into Friday proper and start talking SpiceFM. KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Good morning, good morning. Hey,
good morning.
Wait. Say it again.
Good morning. How are you?
Me? Mimi niko salama. Bado sikusikii bwana.
Bado nisikii.
Let's see. Talk again.
Technology. Good morning.
Okay, very good.
Iko sawa?
Technology sometimes does a thing, but then now we get to hear you and voila, here we are.
Wewe
iko salama.
Salama Salmini.
Salama Salmini.
Yes.
One Dennis today.
Yeah.
But it's okay. We are settling into things.
We're settling into things.
How are you doing?
Salama.
Did you not? I saw you yesterday afternoon, so I know you were not in the city, caught up in all of that.
Yeah, but coming to the office in the morning, there is evidence of what happened yesterday.
Yeah. Yesterday was quite sticky. Getting into the city, and folks are saying, you know what, that's good for you that the budget is being read, but we're not going to allow certain things to continue to be the status quo when you want to act as though nothing happened.
We have other pressing issues.
Quite a number of businesses were closed yesterday, and the town was at a standstill because said, you know what, no, sorry, we are looking at a different kind of situation where things need to be done differently, and of course the pictures that we saw, interesting ones which we'll get into. Good morning, everybody. 13 minutes after 6 o'clock and into the final situation room for this week. It's the 13th of June, Friday the 13th. Speak life. Because I know everybody's already starting, doomsday, nana.
Yeah, it is actually my colleague's birthday. It's called Ronald Kipruto. It's his birthday today. He's been having all discussion on Friday the 13th. I'm like, just speak life.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
No, come
Enjoy
on.
it.
The words that you speak have power, and so let's go with powerful positivity about the day, shall we? It's going to be a packed one, and there are a lot of things happening around the country, and so Friday's the day that the other dentist is not here, but we're going to see how that will pan out over the next couple of weeks, because then we'll be able to then get settled in, right? So getting into conversations for this week, let me let you know what we will be talking about. Lest we forget is something that we do here often, and today from about 6:15 o'clock at about 20:06, we're going to be in our Lest We Forget session with former Member of Parliament Kabando, and we'll be definitely looking into what we're seeing now starting to grow in terms of, public contestation about certain things. Lest we forget that Albert Ojwang died and he didn't need to. Lest we forget somebody is behind his death, somebody's behind his murder. And lest we forget that it cannot be status quo or business as usual with things like that. So that's the conversation that we have. And it's starting off from about 6:30 this morning. We then get into other conversations at 7 o'clock with our Healthy Friday conversation. We've been having conversations for the longest time about what goes on with men and mental health, and why is it not easy for these conversations to be had. Danish Odongo is the host of Manspective Africa, and Teresa Kainika is the psychologist and CEO of All Smiles Therapy Limited. Unmasking masculinity, breaking the stigma around men's mental health. A big, tough conversation, but we're going to have it. Some of the things that you don't talk about, some of the areas that you don't go into. Let's unmask them this morning at 7. And then at 8 a.m., Mohammed Ado is the Member of Parliament for Wajir South constituency. Jeremiah Kioni is the Secretary General of the Jubilee Party. Both these gentlemen will join us at 8 a.m. Reality check beyond the figures and fanfare of the budget from yesterday. What does it actually mean? And in which direction are we actually heading? Let's have some real conversations, and let's do it with them at 8. And finally at 9 a.m., we're going into our youth perspective this hour. And Francis Njoroge is the Head of Public Policy at IC Law, and financial consultant CPA Brian Nabiswa will join us at 9 a.m. and we'll be looking into the youth perspective. We are seeing these protests back on the streets. We are seeing that folks have said, you know what, if we are the ones who are going to have to do it, we will be. So we'll look into that at 9. So that forms the basis of our conversations this morning. We'll get into it, guys, and we can already see you getting into the room today. Just tell us, where you're tuned in from. We'd love to say a big hello to you as we start these conversations and get into the tail end of the Situation Room for this week. Sawa. So Karibuni, live streams are up YouTube, Facebook, and on X, and our audience on KTN already this morning at 6. Karibuni sana. Let's get into it. First of all, let's get into today's proverb from Uganda.
Yeah, still in Uganda, the final proverb that is closing the chapter for Uganda in East Africa. We've read a lot about Uganda, its political story, the president that is there right now, and also just the fact that it harbors half the population of the wild gorillas. One of the great things, because gorillas, if not well taken care of, they will just be extinct like other animals in the world. And the proverb today that will sum up the proverbs from Uganda this week is: a bird will always use the feathers of another bird to build its nest.
A bird will always use the feathers of another bird to build its nest. I already see it two ways. That, sometimes you can take from the good fortune of others to their loss to build up something for yourself. Or in a positive manner that, we all build each other.
Yeah.
That something from me and something from you and something from somebody else can be used to build someone. And not necessarily just about money, but, it could be advice, it could be lending a hand, but that I have something that somebody else could benefit from, or that you have something that I could benefit from.
Yeah.
And that what society and community and life is about is that we then are built by building each other.
Yeah, we rely on each other for us to grow, and I'll just give an example of, let's talk about the free education that was put in place by Mwai Kibaki. It is based on that the children today enjoy education,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Be good to see what folks have to say about that today as we get into conversations this morning. Sawa. So let's say a good morning to you, because we're going to get into things real quick this morning. And we can see that you guys are all tuned in already. So Karibu, of course, good to have you here. And who, yeah, I know the sound of an owl, is in the room this morning. Don Sabwas, good morning. Shall the parliament deliver is the question that you're asking. Shall the parliament stand with the people? Shall the parliament save the people? And it would be good to get those answers, and we shall. Ugali Lazima says R. Saya Subui. Okay, Sawa. Desmond Otis says, hello cousins. Albert's death wasn't accidental, but to taste waters on Kenyan specifically, particular community. Anyway, yesterday's budget was pathetic. Okay, well, all right. Robert Mbogo says, good morning, tuning from Mombasa. Bonjour, Spices. Ça va, says Agola. Salut, ça va. Eugene Odhiambo is tuned in this morning, tuned in from Kikuyu. Leo says, good morning, Princess Ndu and Aseto. Yes, Dennis is here, but, not here. Saw a post on the said motor vehicle that was supposedly torched by citizenry yesterday, and that they supposedly don't exist on the NTSA as saloon cars. Saloon cars is what we're saying. Old tricks debunked. This is interesting because the vehicles that were burned yesterday, who were they? Whose were they? Yeah. And Kenyans are very quick. You see that vehicle, you see a number plate, you're putting it in the NTSA system, and you're asking, who does it belong to? Why was it parked there? What was the deal? Do we see some kind of foul play already here to then take away from the integrity of these protests?
Yes, and that also just comes in when the GSE officers were sent to Standard Media Group, and if you take the plate numbers and just run it on NTSA, then again, that plate that was on that provost vehicle belongs to another vehicle. So see the pattern?
There's something amiss.
Yeah.
There is. Rahim Tula Omar is tuning from Colchester this morning and says, good morning. Bwangi Juma also says, good morning. May God protect Kenyans. I say an amen to that. Kwamka Mana says, Dr. Venvik. Rose Grace is tuning from Tamu and says, wonderful weekend ahead. Michael Olande says, Muamut Seneza, good morning, and thank God the weekend is here. Patrick Mutinda says, good morning, Ndu. SpiceFM team, has anyone noticed that we do not have working boards of management in schools? They were dissolved months ago. Yeah, as a part of a conversation that we had here a couple of days ago. Simon Kibiru says, a very good morning. Thanks for the biggest conversation of the day. Have a nice weekend and be blessed. To you too, brother. My Prince says, good morning, everyone. Have a weekend filled with joy and chocolate. I'm telling you, chocolate. Somebody gave me chocolate yesterday. It was great. Taking it all in stride. And there's no sugar in my coffee. Just to let you know that. My princess, good morning. Ricardo Spice, Marietta says, good morning, kings and queens. We're in a pressure cooker kind of situation. Kitengela Ikolokt. JB Mutua says, good morning. Happy Friday, Spice family. Michael Olande says, the DIG was the first to complain. He should be the first to write a statement before anybody else. This is the interesting thing, because he is the complainant in all of this. And then now his mum, can't be that mum's the word. Kisa Daniel is tuned in and says, wish you a good weekend. Jimmy Munuthi says, good morning, have a great day. Still missing CT. We are too. Don't worry and don't doubt that for a minute. Nemian Movic says, hi cousins, listening in from Kisumu. Jose Mahinda says, good morning. Mukwaje, tuko salama. Ann Gore is also tuned in and says, good morning from Nairobi and a happy Furahi Day. Joe Mungai says, good morning from Bonny Lake. Ojwang's death at the hands of police bears a striking resemblance to George Floyd. The difference, though, is that George Floyd's killer is in jail, in prison, actually.
We saw what the federal government did. He was interdicted.
Yeah.
He was taken through the judicial process.
He went to court.
Went in court.
And the trial happened and was found guilty and then sentenced. He's in prison. Robinson Hisero says, good morning from Hong Kong. This is a pure cover-up of Ojwang's death. It looks like it. Margaret Wanjohi tuned in this morning and says, let's continue the great conversation. Let's do it. We can't do it without you guys, so let's do it. General Issa Mavenge says, good morning live from Kuwait. Good morning to you. Mashari and Jerry is tuned in. Young Jedi says, good morning DND. I like that. So today's DN and D will be back Monday. So Friday is the day when he has a couple of things that he has to then sort out, but we're streamlining that for him to then be here through and through. Ongani Malala says, hello, tuned in to you as usual. We have a leadership problem in this country. One would have to agree. Kavoy Felix says, good morning, watching live from Kathonsweni. I've always liked that name. It's somewhere in Makweni.
Yes.
Eric Awar, good morning. The old tricks of burning vehicles. We see that. Victor Kiprotich, good morning, live from Nax, Vegas. Chechi says, Siti Mugo ako wapi? Ako Nairobi. Sawa. Pam Media says, good morning. Good morning, what a week. Sina la kusema. I know, precious. Mao Witi says, good morning, Spice family. Simavasi says, good morning, joining the conversation from Taita Taveta. Mtuflani, good morning. You say, good morning, my favorite hosts. Well, good morning, Mtuflani. It's being reported that the torched car's plates did not match the NTSA records. Has this been verified? That's what's being reported across board. I don't know what to say beyond that. Alex Mwoki says, good morning, following from Kau Magala in Garissa County. Karanjan Jehia says, good morning. We should all go to a zoology class to maybe understand this phenomenon. Which one specifically? I must ask. So there are many more people tuned in online this morning, and we get to you as we see you. Soldier Boy is also tuned in. Bernard Odongo is here. Nairobi and says, good morning. Justice for Ojwang, rest in peace, says Mzalendo. Indeed. George Okoh, we see you. Good morning to you. Julia Song is tuned in. Hope you are doing great. Answered the question. Noble Brown is also tuned in from San Francisco. And John Kamburo says, I'm proud of the Kenyan youth. They are understanding the assignment. Yep, guys, it's quite a lot to have to be able to deal with as we go through a number of these issues over and over and over again. Yes, we still see some of you in the room. I'm just trying to get my phone to behave itself. And even as we do, yes, no, you're saying that you're getting, I know I might be late and I'm off the subject. Okay, I'm not quite sure the question that you're asking there, but okay, Noble Brown. Abdallah Hussein Mohammed, greetings. And tuned in from Mandera's Ibrahim Hassan. Sawa, guys. Good to have you in the room. Karibuni Sana. And I know that you're still coming in. As you do, just know that you have the warmest of our welcomes as we get into conversations today. All right, at this time, before we get to joining our guest at 6:30 or so, let's look at the headlines. And on the front page of Kenya's bold newspaper, The Standard, what do we see? Fury against Langat. Budget day is meant to chart a nation's future, but in Kenya, the past came roaring back. Protesters overran the streets demanding the immediate arrest of Deputy IG Eliud Lagat over the brutal killing of Albert Ojwang. What should have been John Mbadi's defining moment was drowned in tear gas and defiance as chants of no justice, no budget shook the capital. Lagat faces growing pressure to step aside, but silence from the top only fuels the fire. 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 4, 6, and 7. It's carried on those pages today. And of course, quite a pictorial. And if a picture could tell 1,000 words, we see a lot of those pictures telling stories. Yesterday, Standard newspaper being used as a placard, and it didn't have to go beyond that. For protesters, justice for Ojwang ought to have come first before the budget reading. Protesters take to the streets to demand justice. And then this is all happening where in Kerio Valley a couple of days ago, 2 bodies of 2 men who had been abducted and later executed have revealed the extent of torture they underwent at the hands of suspected law enforcers. Post-mortem reveals how abducted taught men were executed. It doesn't stop. It continues, and this is why the voices must be heard.
You know, there's another lady as well who was in police custody and lost her pregnancy while in custody. So that is also an issue. The OCS has been fired due to that. So
another life.
If you look at it across board, it is just an unending story and a sad one at that matter.
Budget 2025, another headline, hard times ahead as more critical sectors face reduction in funding. They want to call it reduction in funding. We call it defunding. Debt hole set to deepen as civil servants lose perks in new plan. These are the headlines that are across the Standard newspaper this morning. Dennis?
Yeah, let's go to the Daily Nation as well. And Ojwang death fury, that is the story that carries the day on the Daily Nation. And pandemonium, the murder of Albert Ojwang in police custody snowballed into a national security nightmare yesterday, with Nairobi city centre plunged into an orgy of violence. Now, the violent protest that saw some people injured and vehicles torched coincided with the morning appearance in Parliament by security chiefs and overshadowed Treasury Cabinet Secretary John Mbadi's maiden budget speech in the afternoon. The same in pages 2, 3, 4 and 5 on the Daily Nation. The same as if we just talk about Mbadi explores 70 billion shillings Adani type deals. Now the country is eyeing Adani type deals worth 70 billion shillings in the new financial year as the government increasingly turns to the public-private partnership model to finance infrastructure projects in a strategy to avoid piling up more debt. That as well as just the pictorials of the big day yesterday as CS Treasury John Mbadi alongside National Planning Committee Chair Francis Kuria and Budget Appropriations Committee Chair Samuel Atandi at Parliament buildings, and also pictorials of the demonstrations in the CBD, the youth demanding for justice, not just the youth but Kenyans as well, and the IG Douglas Kanja before Parliament as well. The stories continue all the way to pages 5. And Kenya seeks 70 billion shillings from PPPs to fund infrastructure and tax relief for importers of wheat and rice in EAC deal. Will these see the cost of food go down? Only time will tell. Real quick, we look at the Business Daily. Business Daily. Motorists to pay 300 billion shillings bonds for contractor bills. Now, reprieve for farms owed billions of shillings, not proceeds to clear mounting bills. Now, motorists will compensate investors set to buy the planned 300 billion shillings road bonds for payments of mounting pending bills that have triggered the closure and auction of small contractors. Now, the National Assembly yesterday cleared the Kenya Roads Board to allocate 12 shillings of the 25 shillings a litre road maintenance levy fund to compensate investors into multi-billion shillings bond. Finally, the pending bills seem to be having a clear sight on how they will be cleared, and Kenyans now ditch iTax for e-citizen in filing nil returns.
On the front page of the Star, Ojwang demos overshadow Mbadi budgets. And the subhead under that, IPOA Chair Isaac Hassan says they are ready to charge at least 3 cops. Okay. Okay. Boy, this is all happening when the budget, which sets aside 5.9 billion shilling for national exams, we saw that there would be a defunding of education when it came to exams. But according to the readings from the CS yesterday, it looks like some money is being set aside for that. Budget balancing, political survival and fiscal realities. 2 cars burnt as protesters rock Nairobi on budget day. And the news tightens on Langat as arrest looms for 3 over Ojwang's murder. So, we'll hear who those 3 are and the rationale behind them. Rather, the reasons as to why they are the ones who will be charged with this. Court drama as Agnes Tirop's family protests delayed trial. You remember her?
Yeah. The athlete.
The athlete. And that still continues. And also looking at Green leaf tea prices dropped by 8 shillings per kilo on Sudan's ban. And I want to look really quickly into the sports pages today. We know that August is quickly coming, and whether that will happen in terms of readiness for the Africa Cup of Nations. Athletic stars fall by the wayside as doping menace rears its ugly head, and other things that we're looking at. The road to the LA 2028 Olympics agenda with Standard Group supporting Kenya's road to that. Reduced funding for anti-doping body hampers vital fight against the menace, and that's one of the stories that we're looking at in sports across board. So those are the stories that are making headlines. Take a quick break and come back and look at some of these stories and the meat of things, shall we? It's 28 minutes to 7 o'clock. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation.
Not it's a pact
to plant trees and protect our environment,
to drive mentorship and education,
to grow businesses with funding and training,
to share with our communities.
Since 2020, we've honored this pact.
As we mark 5 years, we renew it, because all impact begins with a pact. I&M Foundation, celebrating 5 years of impact, powered by I&M Bank.
Great! This June, the biggest Club World Cup ever held is here. The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded free to the next high bouquet for 60 days. A competition across the continents. 30 action-packed days of top-notch football from 32 best club teams from around the world. Recharge your subscription today to never miss a moment of a competition like never before. On the move, download StarTimes on and watch every goal, every moment, anytime, anywhere. StarTimes Sports, beyond passion. StarTimes, enjoy digital life. Provides the inspiration for Leipzig.
All right, so what's happening in traffic? Just a build-up on the Thika Superhighway as you come into the city, but nothing crazy. It is Friday after all, so we expect to see lower levels of traffic. And then as you're coming out of Westlands, from that whole area coming up at the A104, some traffic starting to build at your junctions though, so nothing to be too worried about right now. On Gong Road, as you come into the city as well, some traffic building right around that junction more, and then coming in from Naivasha Road as well. So there you'll have some. The Southern Bypass looks good. It's the route out of the city as we're getting into the weekend, and Jago Road is starting to build as you get then towards Landis. So an eye on all of this is what we'll keep. We'll talk and keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Spice 7, and we look at the meat of some of these stories. On the front page of the Standard, Budget Day is meant to chart a nation's course, essentially, in terms of what you're supposed to do, how you'll spend the money, and where you're going to get it from. But we saw a different kind of budget day, and right around the time where last year the finance bill protests then marred a lot of this. But then also because Kenyans were raising their voices in terms of what was necessary for them when it came to how government actually treats you. The pictures tell 1,000 words here. Justice for Ojwang ought to have come first before the budget reading is what we're hearing, and that protesters had a boldness to them yesterday in the face of police, where they're saying, we cannot allow certain things to happen. We are peaceful. These words still ring out like they were uttered yesterday. A haunting refrain from the anti-finance bill 2024 Gen Z protests that claim many lives across the country. They were the very words chanted repeatedly by squads of youth and activists who took to the streets demanding justice for Albert Ojwang, who died while in police custody on Sunday. The chants one may have hoped once many had hoped the country would never have to relive. Echoed through various parts of Nairobi Central Business District, outraged youth poured into the street demanding the resignation of Deputy Inspector General of the National Police Service, Eliud Lagat, who now faces intense criticism over Ojwang's death. Thursday began as a typical budget reading day in line with the National Treasury calendar, but the events quickly took a drastic one rather. Protesters took to the streets calling for the budget to be rescinded until justice is served and those responsible held to account. No justice, no budget is what the chants were. The angry youth chanted in unison, condemning police brutality and the spate of extrajudicial killings witnessed across the country. Resign and surrender to the police, the protesters demanded, noting that as long as Lagat is in office, he will prevent justice from taking its due course. So those are some of the issues that we are looking at. Also, it all evoked painful memories of a year ago when young Kenyans flooded the streets to oppose a finance bill deemed repressive. The uprising peaked on the 25th of June when many protesters were fatally shot by police. Those are some of the stories, though.
You see, even as we look at this story, we have to look at why the citizens went to the streets yesterday demanding justice for Albert Ojwang, simply because if you look at the timelines being taken with regard to investigating this matter, it's taken long, especially coming after we saw the investigations that went into arraigning and also arresting those who were allegedly involved in the murder of MP Charles Were. And it is upon that then Kenyans are saying, enough is enough, guys. It can't be that when it comes to one of you, it's a short period. But when it is us, it takes a long period. And even the persons who've been mentioned are still serving and appearing on press conferences. I mean, all it would have taken, one would assume, even former National Police Service Commission chair we had here yesterday said the right thing that ought to have happened is even Lagat himself should have stepped down and allowed investigations to take place.
Yep. That people have to beg for a certain situation to take place, I think, is one that we have to really look at with a lot of intensity. So we have Kabando who's going to join us on the line, but let's look at another story from you as we bring him in to discuss this.
Still, even as we talk about the matters surrounding Ojwang, there is a development in page 8 of the Daily Nation where authorities now say 2 civilians have been implicated in the murder of Albert Ojwang, even as MPs were told Deputy Inspector General of Police Eliud Lagat would be questioned last. A police constable attached to Central Police Station has also been arrested in connection with the killing. According to a police signal, Mr. James Mukhwana faces a murder charge. He is the first police officer to be arrested in connection with Ojwang's killing. A total of 17 police officers involved in the operation that led to Ojwang's arrest have been summoned by the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, IPOA. Ojwang died hours after being locked up last Saturday at the Central Police Station in Nairobi following a complaint Mr. Lagat had lodged against him. So that's the latest development. One, Mr. Mukhwana has been arrested, and there's a civilian as well who allegedly involved in this as well who's been arrested.
So the details, and I think that the keen eye that a lot of Kenyans are paying to this is that for everyone who is arrested or charged, there will be a magnifying glass that's taken to this, and questions will be asked about why this person and not the other. If there was a civilian in the police station or alongside in the ride, why were they there? And why would they have done something under the full glare of police within a station? The questions will be asked. Whoever is brought to charge, they will be asked why this person and not the other. We're going into the newspaper review, still looking at stories, but joining us on the line at this time is Kabando wa Kabando. It's a lest we forget session, and we're having it earlier today because we are saying we cannot forget about some of these things. We will not allow them to go under the table, and we start that conversation at this time. Kabando, good morning.
Good morning to you all.
I hope you're doing well.
We are doing fine, and thanks to God.
Karibu sana. We're getting into this conversation at this hour because, Kabando, there are so many things that are happening in the country at the moment. Yesterday, we saw the beginnings of what will be dissatisfaction established or shown, and it will be frustration that is then made very overt, and that the people of the country are saying, we will not allow this to continue, that we have not forgotten, and that unfortunately some of the things that we were complaining about a year ago, we still have those things happening today. Albert Ojwang's story is front and center. We also are remembering that there are two gentlemen from Tot who were abducted and then they were killed, and a post-mortem has shown that they went through some blatant torture, but they cannot be forgotten. And so we're getting into a place where we're saying, lest we forget, these are the realities of our times. And I guess the first question that we start with you this morning, Kabando, is that, are we making too much noise?
Thank you very much, and I really appreciate this conversation. Let me say that if we were to look back where you are coming from, without concentrating too much on history, because this is lest we forget, is to ask the main question: are we still a constitutional state? And is Constitutional Kenya 2010 that ushered a new dawn still applicable, and is the rule of law still being followed? If you go back many, many years before the Gen Zs were born, there was a time when a minister spoke very dangerously, and the following day we lost Bishop Alexander Mugi of Eldoret. And the minister then, Peter Benga Okondo from Busia, out of public pressure, was made to resign. And he never recovered from that resignation because he had warned that Alexander Mugi, who was a very outspoken Anglican cleric and very bold pro-people bishop, died the following day because he said he wouldn't leave Busia alive. And unfortunately, on his way back from Busia, because he dared him, he vanished in a very suspicious accident. Okondo resigned, and he was a pioneer Kenyan in many fronts. Remember, in 1990, Kenyans, out of anger, there were demonstrations, particularly led by the University of Nairobi, then across the country because of the murder of then outspoken and eloquent Dr. Robert Okoh, Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Yes.
The closest confidant to Daniel Moi, then President of Kenya, the so-called Toto man, was Nicholas Biwott. He was picked and he was, detained for some time. Whether the whole problem was resolved to date is another question. But remember, Biwott was the strongest minister in Moi's cabinet. But Moi had to submit, to yield to public pressure and put him in. Fast forward to Kibaki period. I remember Minister for Finance, David Mwiraria, and another minister, Kraito Morongi then, and another minister, Moses Wetangula. They stepped aside when there were allegations on Golden Bag, agro-leasing, the sale of like Regency, then Grand Regency Hotel, and the sale of Kenyan embassy in Japan. Ministers who are very strong and very in the cabinet. Now, that was in the old constitution. A new constitution was enacted in 2010, and we have main pillars of Bill of Rights and leadership and integrity dispensation within our current constitution. So what one can summarize, the very fact that there have been demonstrations, there have been censures in the Senate, however feeble, there have been censure in the National Assembly, however feeble, but unanimity everywhere in newsroom editorials, newspapers, radios, televisions, social media, and children, not children, Gen Zs, millennials, the children of Kenya have come out yesterday and the day before. The fact that Eliud Lagat, the Deputy Inspector General of Police, is still in office today is a citation or a loud, embarrassing statement of the continued and escalating impunity in Kenya. Remember, the killing of the extrajudicial killing of Albert Omondi Ojwang is something that has been so loud globally and so angrily stated across the Republic of Kenya, in addition to very other many killings that have happened recently of a cleric from Nyandarua and another one from Marakwet, and nothing is happening, and others that have also happened in Turkana and other parts. It is a statement that would easily mean that the cartel of impunity is increasingly getting rooted in Kenya, and the restlessness that we are witnessing in this country.
Kabando, I have to, I'm sorry I have to ask you though, that because to the mind, to any normal mind, when you see the happenings that we have seen, I mean, not just even over months, over the last 7 days, or even 6 days, 5 days, whereby Albert Ojwang's death, his murder, has taken the nation front and center. But you know what? There are two gentlemen who were abducted, who taught, and who then turned up dead and had been dismembered. And an autopsy has shown that they were tortured literally to death. These things are happening concurrently. The cries from Kenyans are happening, and we are reading a budget and we are talking about giving audience to musicians at State House, and we're talking about instituting an IEBC. We are just going on as business as usual. Is it normal that the soul of the country is crying, and the leadership who has a responsibility and an opportunity to actually mend these wrongs seems to make statements but not do anything necessarily about it? Is that normal? And that should governance just continue, administration just continue as though nothing were happening?
It is completely abnormal. It's extraordinary, and you can say even unprecedented. We have seen, many such impunities and the desperations that have ensued after, and even sometimes the resistance to remedy situations like those. But what this means is that we are now on the edge of a failed state. I know one would easily judge or say that would be an extreme statement, that we are still a country, but I'm saying the fact that there is nothing being done, the fact that these extrajudicial killings are increasing on a daily basis, and they're piling up on even cases that are already being protested, and that nothing is happening. The minister or the cabinet secretary in charge of it area comes to national parliament to just show bravado. And the fact that even leaderships in parliament, like yesterday you had, the leader of minority in the National Assembly shamelessly asking those who are protesting or raising grievances because of Albert Ojwang to go and kill their sons and mourn them. The kind of shamelessness and immaturity that's happening is extraordinary. It is obnoxious. It's completely abnormal. And so what one would easily see, when people lose trust, and that trust is really evidently lost on public institutions. The fact that the Directorate of Criminal Investigations says this thing, then the OCS, Officer Commanding Station, at the Central Police Station, the police station at the capital in the center of Nairobi City, says a different thing. The Communication Authority of Kenya says a different thing. The institution in charge of all the communications and the data distribution and then the premier mobile company in Kenya, mobile company, Safaricom, says a different thing. Then you have the Inspector General of Police says another different thing. What does that mean? If the Directorate of Criminal Investigation, the National Police Service, the Department of Interior in the Office of the President, in Parliament, the leadership of the National Assembly says a different thing, and then the majority leader in the Senate says another different thing, which was now, positively in the support of the Inspector General of Police, Eliud Langat, stepping aside, and the fact that it took over 48 hours for the President of the Republic of Kenya to speak, and that to date, even this morning, 4 days over, on the 5th day, the culprit himself has not made any move or even a statement. This means, and then the witnessing of what happened yesterday, you saw young men, young ladies in Kenya, mostly I would say the youth, coming out and daring police in all ways possible in defense of Kenyan and others who have been killed in this particular case, domiciling on the case of Albert Ojwang, means that we are losing it completely. We are losing
Kabando,
it.
when you talk about the case of Albert Ojwang, it's just one of the many cases that we continue to record in the country. As you rightfully said, there has been a semblance of silence even from the top office in the land. It took several days for the President of the Republic to give a statement. But that notwithstanding, Kenyans are asking for justice, that the man who's been adversely mentioned, DIG Lagat, should step aside. But nothing seems to be happening, even in the papers today. It is said that he will be questioned as the last person, yet he is the prime suspect in this matter. And Kenyans are asking, if we can't trust the police to take care of us and to protect us, then where do we go to, Kabando?
The case of Albert Ojwang easily reflects the case of Steve Biko in South Africa. The one who was tortured, the civil rights leader against apartheid in South Africa, who was tortured in police cells. And the case at Central Police, again, reminds us of the colonial era arrest of Harry Duku, after whose name the road at between the National Theatre and the Central Police station is named. Where do we go to? If we have no trust in the president, and it is clearly evident that across the country people are very angry with the President Ruto because of incompetence and the donkey attitude with his ministers and the surrogates within the parliament who are even dismissing Kenyans who are protesting, asking, go kill your children, then you can mourn them. They can't understand. They have lost it. They are now swimming in the grafts, extrajudicial killings and impunity oceans. They are so oiled in the ocean of insensitivity to the extent that they will dare us that, yes, they are dead, they have been killed, but that is nothing. It is not a national issue. I dare say this, and I know it is the feeling of many, at least consequent to what we are hearing and seeing. When people lose faith in the president, who is a symbol of national unity and the symbol of the sovereignty of the Republic of Kenya, and when people see the tools and instruments in the content and in the spirit and in the letter, the Constitution of Kenya being abrogated, disregarded with impunity, when people see the security forces that are supposed to protect them are even killing them more, hurting them more. Last evening we had so many young people who were taken to Pagabi and Kenyatta Hospital because they had bullets in their legs, they had been injured. When people reach the edge of the cliff and you push them to the very edge, you're on a precipice. People will only turn back, and that's what they are doing now. They will turn back, try to push you back, because another inch of push from you will drown them beyond the cliff, and that means they will just vanish. We are now at a time and at a stage, at a situation when Kenyans may apply extra constitutional methods to redeem and protect themselves. That is the scenario, and this is something that is very likely. It has been stated within Parliament. I saw it. I saw and I had it in the Senate and National Assembly. We have seen it in the situation rooms like yours, in the SpiceFM and other fora. We are hearing even sermons within places of worship. People now talking more broadly about the helplessness, the desperation that Kenyans have. They have no trust in the governance institutions. Look at how the Independent Police Oversight Authority, IPOA, the chair gave a very loud presence, just folding his hands as the policemen were just giving contradictory statements, even talking about how the victim, John, was hitting his head on the wall. The IPOA was just standing there. The following day, the vice chair of IPOA was giving another statement in Parliament. Then, within 24 hours, the police and the IPOA were giving different statements. This institution that is supposed even to now be investigating these crimes across of Albert Omondi Ojwang and others is a tool by the president himself, and even the composition of these national commissions, both the National Police Service Commission, the Independent Police Oversight Authority, even the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights. They are now reacting. They are not responding to public pressure and the public interest. People are in a situation where it will be legitimate. I don't want to add my volume. It will be legitimate for Kenya to do a Burkina Faso. And to get this whole political class out of the way, if redemption and security and safety and prosperity of Kenya would mean the custody of the Constitution of Kenya being in the hands of people who will have removed surrogates, machineries of graft, and agents of extrajudicial killings, it is even godly to imagine and achieve that particular goal.
Kabando, thank you very much. And I think that, we always say that sometimes we say we're looking for solutions. Which way should we actually go? But in this case, you've said it. If that is a decision that will not be taken, then it's obvious that the direction in which it's going might have to just play itself out. Thank you for joining us on Lest We Forget this morning. We look forward to another one with you in the coming days. Asante sana.
Thank you very much, and keep up the great work. You speak for the voiceless, and your platform is very useful to getting the conversation going positively for Kenya.
Kabando, thank you so much. Good morning. Conversations continue. It's 7 a.m.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. We begin with highlights in the 2025-2026 budget as proposed by Treasury CS John Mbadi. Mbadi, who delivered the estimates in the National Assembly on Thursday, proposed allocating 405.1 billion shillings to county governments, 138.1 billion shillings to the health sector, and 12.7 billion shillings to the ICT sector. He allocated 47.6 billion shillings to the agriculture sector, marking a reduction from the 54.6 billion billion shillings allocated in the previous fiscal period. Body proposed an allocation of 217.3 billion shillings for road development, 300 million shillings for airstrips construction and expansion, and 37.1 billion shillings for rail transport. He also allocated 464.9 billion shillings towards security and 702.7 billion shillings to the education sector. Badi further confirmed that the government has intentionally avoided introducing any new taxes in the Finance Bill 2025.
Since I took office at the National Treasury and Economic Planning, I assured Kenyans that we shall strive to reduce tax burden. In this respect, the Finance Bill of 2025 has neither proposed new taxes nor raised any tax rate. Instead, we have chosen to enhance tax revenue collection through administrative reforms by simplifying and streamlining tax laws to make them clearer and easier to implement, thereby improving taxpayer compliance.
A police officer attached to Central Police Station, Nairobi, has been arrested in connection with the killing of teacher and social media influencer Albert Ojwang. Constable James Muhwana was apprehended on Wednesday by officers from the Internal Affairs Unit and IPOA. An officer privy to the matter said Constable Muhwana, who's being held at Capitol Hill Police Station, is expected to face murder charges. Muhwana is accused of involvement in Ojwang's killing while in police custody at the Central Police Station. On Wednesday, DCI boss Mohammed Amin told the Senate that Samson Talam, the OCS at Central Police Station, is being treated as the prime suspect. The Independent Policing Oversight Authority will summon Deputy Inspector General Eliud Lagat for interrogation over the murder of Albert Ojwang. IPOA Chairperson Isaac Hassan said since Lagat was the complainant behind Ojwang's arrest, he would be summoned for questioning to determine whether he had a hand in his killing. Hassan, who was appearing before the National Assembly Committee on Administration and Internal Security, said the authority had already interrogated 23 suspects and witnesses over the killing. He also revealed sustained efforts by police to cover up the murder and stall investigations.
The preliminary findings reveal the following. The deceased died while in custody at Central Police Station cells. The CCTV system located at the OCS office had been interfered with. The power cables were disconnected. The DVR logs indicated that the operating discs had been changed and formatted on 8th of June at 07:28 43 hours and 07:32 29 hours.
This comes a day after two vehicles were torched after anger exploded in the Nairobi CBD as protesters demanded the resignation of Lagat, alleging that he orchestrated Ojwang's murder.
Stop killing us! Stop killing us!
Don't kill me! Mimi ni bila sister yako mdogo. Uliniacha nyumbani. Sasa unataka kuniua kwa street because you are a police officer. No, don't kill me. I'm your younger sister. I'm your younger sister. Tafadhali, tafadhali. Sisi ni watoto wetu. Tafadhali jiunge na sisi. Mujiunge na sisi. Ni mujiunge na sisi. Stop killing us. Stop killing us, guys.
Meanwhile, the Kenya Union of Post-Primary Education Teachers is today expected to honor Ojwang with a night vigil at its head office and all county headquarters. Israel has carried out strikes on Iran's nuclear infrastructure, its ballistic missile program and other military sites. The Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said Iran was a threat to Israel's very survival. A state of emergency has been declared in Israel as the country expects retaliation. Israel has long threatened to carry out military action against Iran's nuclear program, accusing Iran of building a bomb in secret without providing evidence. But Iran denies that its nuclear program is aimed at building a bomb. That's the News Wire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
Spice FM, Nakuru.
Traffic.
All right, taking a look at what's happening with traffic this morning. It is still busy as you start to get into the city. As you come off of the Thika Superhighway, it's not so bad, but you'll find some of that going out then towards Survey. Coming out of Westlands, it's doing okay. Jogoo Road is busy as you get then towards Landys. But then we're also seeing some traffic starting to build on Kiambu Road this morning. And as you come in on the Eastern Bypass, traffic is building as you get towards North Airport Road and then out towards the Cabanas interchange. Apart from that, we're not really seeing too much. Let's see what happens as we get into traffic hour this morning. But we're going to keep things moving either way, aren't we? Yes, we are. How are we going to do that? We're going to do it. SpiceFM KE on X. Hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
A very good morning at 7 minutes after 7 o'clock. This is The Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation this Friday as we continue our conversations and come towards the end of the week. Our live streams are up on Facebook, on YouTube and on X. And as we get into vital conversations this morning, our audience on KTN also here. So very, very good morning to you, even as we get things moving and get things rolling. All right, so 13th of June, it is Friday, and interesting days ahead. One of the issues that we speak about, maybe under the covers sometimes, is one that we're going to be talking about this hour. And I will tell you what that is in just a minute. But I have to remind you that, you know what, sometimes you think about the impact that you would have in society. And are you passionate about creating a better future for Kenya? Do you think about those things when you go to bed at night? Well, INM Foundation also thinks about that. And it's the social investment arm of INM Bank Kenya. So for the past 5 years, INM has been really vested and has taken 2% of their annual profit over the last 5 years and has put that directly into growing certain initiatives. And today they're out saying, you know what, there are certain things that we do. And if you are passionate, then you can also be in the same place. They've demonstrated leadership, and we want to highlight their leadership in environmental conservation. They've also have initiatives under 3 others, such as education and skills development, and economic empowerment, as well as enabling giving. But today, we're looking at the environmental conservation. The INM Foundation is dedicated to protecting our precious natural heritage through strategic partnerships and community driven initiatives, ensuring a justifiable future for all. They believe in impact, and achieving it through focused action. As we renew our pact to keep impacting, learn more about the INM Foundation, its vital work, and how you can potentially collaborate by visiting imbankgroup.com/foundation. That's imbankgroup.com/foundation to learn more. Powered by I&M. And going back to INM.
Exactly. You know, we live in very tough economic times, and because of that, you need someone who listens to you. I&M says, have you been looking and searching for someone who listens to you? I&M says, we are here and we are listening to you. When Kenyans voiced concerns about bank to M-Pesa charges, I&M says, we heard you, we listened to what you said, and they waived the same. When you struggled with short-term loans, we heard you, introduced a 90-day option right on your phone. You just get to access it right on your phone. You don't have to go to the bank. And INM says, we are listening and we are responding because your financial well-being is our priority. Experience a bank that's on your side, a bank that is next to you, that hears you, that listens to what it is you're saying. And that for you to be able to get these, you need to open your individual or solo biz account today via the INM Bank OTG app. That is INM Bank on the go app. INM says, we are a listening partner. We are your friends. Just speak to us and we will listen and hear to your concerns.
Fantastic. It's Friday, and our Healthy Friday conversation today is around the stigma around men's mental health. Like I said, it's conversations that we usually have under the cover of darkness, and we don't talk about it too much, isn't it? Because, you know, a man is not supposed to have weaknesses. A man is not supposed to be worried, or at least be overtly expressive about those worries, isn't it? And we're debunking the myths of our times. And so our Healthy Friday conversation is unmasking masculinity, breaking the stigma around men's mental health. And look, when we talk about this, we are touching everything in society. Today, whether we are touching the issues around why did Albert Ojwang die? Who killed him? Why can't we have people who will open their mouths and talk about the real situation? Why can't we have people to step down from high horses around some of these things? It's unmasking masculinity, and that's the conversation that we have this hour. We talk with two people, and one of them is already here this morning. Teresa Kainika, I beg your pardon, is a psychologist and CEO of All Smiles Therapy Center, and she's in the hot seat of the Situation Room this morning. Teresa, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Very well. How are you doing?
Fine, thank you, and thank you so much for having me this morning.
Karibu sana.
Thank you.
You're going to be joined shortly by Danish Odongo, who is the host of Manspective Africa, really, and has been quite vocal about being vocal, and he joins us in a short while, and he'll tell us a little bit about his story and why it's necessary to have these conversations. But we're going to start off today and get you to settle down in the hot seat just a little bit. We go around the African continent every week. We land in a different country, and then we take something back. Not like the colonialists, but we take their wisdom. And they give us proverbs. Don't ask us how, it just happens. And Dennis is going to tell you what country we're in this week, and we'd love to get your interpretation of a proverb that he's going to share and tell us what you think about that. All right.
Great.
So today we are in the East Africa region in Africa, and the country that we're talking about calls itself the Pearl of Africa. You know that country?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and it is a country that enjoys immense amount of rain. It's considered a breadbasket of the region, and that notwithstanding as well, it has a president who's been in power for around 39 years now. And as well, it is a country where, when you talk about dancing and shaking the waist, the men in that country know how to do that very well. We're talking about Uganda.
Wow.
Yeah, talking about Uganda. Sure. Yeah, and the proverb that comes from that country, a bird will always use the feathers of another bird to build its nest. Mm-hmm. A bird will always use the feathers of another bird to build its nest. What do you make of that?
That we need community. Mm. We are never strong alone. It's never all that serious. We need other people. Yeah.
Well put.
Indeed. Can't do it by yourself, can you? And there have been many a conversation about mental health, but there's not been enough a conversation around how men feel about speaking out, and that unfortunately too much is held within. And I guess we want to start off from that point, at least before Danish gets here, for us to weave these conversations together. And we've tried to understand it for the very longest time. Not to say that those who are overtly expressive then have a better time with mental health, or do they?
Not really. We start by saying mental health is not all about men. It's actually a societal thing. It's affects the entire society. Because who are these men that we talk about? Our dads, our brothers, our husbands, our sons. And that means when one man is affected, an entire community is affected. So we first need to look at this from a holistic perspective, not just from where men are seated. Yeah.
So we talk about masculinity, and just the word of it alone, it is seen as a societal construct that differs from different cultures in the world. And one of those is a man is supposed to be strong. A man is supposed to be the provider. You're not supposed to show emotions, because you are as strong as a rock. A rock don't crack. That's what they say. But as we look at the society as it goes, we find that men tend to be very emotional, only that they don't know how to share that. So then, how do we bring the balance such that, fine, you need to provide, you need to be strong, you need to be all this, but then again, it is okay for you to speak up and seek for help?
We bring in the balance by first mystifying stigma around it. You've said it so well. Men should not cry. Men should never ask for help. Men should never share when they are going through issues. They should not talk about it because they are supposed to be strong. Men are men, and so men are rocks. So we need to demystify and say, no, that's not the case. It's healthy and it's okay to cry, because when we suppress their feelings, what are we expecting them to do? Yeah, so they are highly affected because we do not give them a room. There is like a pattern. This is so structured. This is how a man should behave. And you know what? It doesn't start from when a man is grown. It starts right from when they are kids. You know, you look at a boy child, and you're telling them, you know, boys should not cry. What are you telling them? What about, I hear you, I'm here, you validate how they're feeling. How can I be of help to you? It's okay, you can ask for help. Yeah.
Where did that come from? Where did this thing where did this thing come from that men shouldn't cry? I mean, I don't think that tears are just the purview of one gender. Where did this thing come from that men shouldn't cry, or that men should not be expressive about what they feel? Where did that come from?
Starting that we are Africans, it's a taboo. A man should be out there in the jungle. They should be fighting with lions and all that. So there is the expectation, because you're a man, yours is to protect, and you protect physically. Forgetting there is also emotional protection. Yes.
You see, it stems up from the like she says, men are seen as warriors. You're just supposed to go to the field and fight. Even if you go during the pre-colonial times, it is the men on the forefront. So then again, what kind of a warrior are you when you're crying? So you look at that and you extrapolate in terms of the cultures that we have come to adopt, and you find once a man has gone through circumcision, and at that point, you're tough as a rock and whatnot. But then again, it's about time that you break all these stereotypes that does exist. And one would say, even in 2025, we still have our own cultures and all the stereotypes that do exist. So how do we have these conversations such that we don't lose our culture, but those traits of our cultures that don't mean well in the modern day, we get rid of them? Are we ready to have that conversation as Africans?
It's a very hard one, because when you look at mental health in general, people don't even realize there is a lot of labeling out here. Mwentawazimu, who is this person? And from the mental health, we can tell you we do not have anyone who is a Muntawazimu. It's either they are having a condition, and that condition has a name, and they are not defined by that condition. I'm yet to see someone being called, this is cancer, this is diabetes, this is asthma. But we are so much stereotyping when it comes to mental health. So it all starts from there. And let's look at it this way. When a man goes to another man to complain of what they are going through, what is most likely to happen? Get another bottle. Do this. Let's walk out. No, you are man, you need to be man enough. We don't even offer them that audience. So it all starts by saying it's okay to be culturally right, and it's also okay to create that awareness. Being culturally right does not mean that we are not human in the first place, because we have feelings, thoughts, and all that gets to the output of our behaviors. So before we rush into judging, let's get to know, where are you coming from? Yes.
To look at the genesis of things then really sometimes helps us to deconstruct some of these issues. I am still stuck. I am still trying to understand the connection between being hurt or expressing oneself through tears, the connection between that and weakness. Because there must be a connection that has brought us to the place whereby we can then go further and say that should somebody express their pain or show that pain through crying, that we are then equating it to weakness. I'm still looking for the connection, because if we can't make the connection, then it will be very, very, very difficult then for us to get people to start to share and not be labeled as weak. So what is that?
Wow. Tears. You talk about tears. If you can go back even to childhood, you'd be beaten, you cry, and you are beaten again for crying, which means in the first place, you should not be crying. So tears, they were never considered as a sign of expressing pain. hurt and what you're going through. They were just considered to be just, a result, an input of something, a symptom, but not to see or to look at it from the, the heaviness of, oh, wow, this person is breaking down. And so here came the connection that when you are crying, any other person, if you're a man, should not be able to see your tears, because seeing your tears, it means now you become someone who is very weak, someone who is incapable of doing anything. And so if we are expecting you to be out there to fight on our behalf, how are you going to fight when we can still see your tears? But does that mean that really they don't cry? No.
Do the people who label others as weak when they do express this, are they okay?
They are stereotyped, they are informed by some false beliefs, and they want to, in a way, come with a way of mentoring this person and shape them in their own liking, but not in the liking that they should actually be. Yeah.
You see, when you talk about crying and shedding tears, I remember in my formative years, I was still young, and the moment, you see, my dad is my hero. I keep saying that guy, salute, But I remember there was this one time when my aunt Margaret passed on, and very tight with my dad. And I remember that was the first time I saw my dad's tear. And at that point, having grown up in a setting where my peers would say a man does not cry, but I saw that at home of someone who I considered to be my hero. And I remember asking Dad, like, what's up? What's going on? And he said, this is my sister. I loved her. She has passed on. And I feel that pain. And the only way for me to express that, I can't control these tears. They just have to come back. And what that did is the expression of pain as a man does not have to be bottled in simply because it is a society where you're supposed to be a rock. You're not supposed to cry. And that meant that it's okay for a man to cry. And that is not seen as weakness. But that was only made possible because my hero at that point would express himself that way. And it became easier because I cry. I'll not lie. It's painful. I shed tears. You judge me all you want, but that's just life. So how do we have these communication now from between men themselves to understand it's okay, that even for their partners, for the community, that when you see a man cry, that it's okay, give them a hug, sit down with them, buy them a chocolate, not a bottle. If it's a bottle, maybe of water.
Great. It's by first normalizing that it's okay not to be okay. We start from there. It's okay not to be okay. And from there is the acceptance and acknowledgement that actually I am going through something. And from there comes the understanding that if this person is going through something, they actually need to share because they need help. So first start with the person, even before we go to the society, because the time we give them that room to judge us. Why? Because we also want to protect ourselves by just assuming everything is okay. If I may ask, it's greetings to ask, how are you? In rare cases, someone will say, I am not okay. Yeah. It's always, no, I'm fine, thank you. But deep down, is that person okay? So over the time, we've been able to normalize what is actually should not be normal. Because when you're not okay, you should express and say, well, the day looks nice, though personally I'm not okay today. And you see with that, if I come here and I tell you I am not okay today, it will lead to you asking, oh, share with me what's happening. And with that, you start by expressing. Because as you're saying, our mental health results from a lot of accumulation of unresolved issues until they get to a point where one doesn't know how to navigate through. They do not know there is help available. But even before help, even the coping mechanism. And so we are made just be there and get to know it's about you and the issues that you're going through, because at the end of the day, you are a man. So you can imagine there is so much expectation We are talking of someone who is working, of a dad, someone in the society. And when again we look at a man, there is an entire extended family, but this person is crashing deep down. We say it's very unfortunate that mental health issues, unlike for physical health issues where you can see someone bleeding, you are able to even feel it yourself. But for mental health, it's so overwhelming that only takes time. And by the time you are realizing you are not okay, you look back and you have a train of issues that has resorted to that. And most of the cases, very, very much unfortunate. Yeah.
Do we have adults? And like we said, Danish Odongo is going to join us in a few minutes because then he'll be able to also speak about this from experience. But do we have, if we look at society today, do we have grown-ups who are dealing with unresolved issues that would then, contribute to a mental health problem that we are not dealing with?
Oh, yeah. A lot more. Let's look at one of the causes of current mental health issues, both men, women, in adults, childhood traumas. How are we brought up? Were we brought up the right way? And were we given the chance to resolve the issues that we went through? So in most cases, you realize that someone is not able to follow orders because they didn't know order when they were growing up. You also realize when you talk about childhood traumas, even our family dynamics, let's look at marriage in adulthood. Someone will marry not to complement, not for the right reasons, but they end up marrying to fill in a void in their lives. Maybe it's that mom who was absent, that dad who was absent, or maybe who was also present. And over the time you realize, I married my mom, I married my dad, and there is up to the much that you can do with your parent. So after some times, it will expire. And hence, what will be presented to us will be divorce. But if someone was given a chance to resolve the issues, that could not have happened.
How do you pull back, or how do you claw back that now when you have adults who are formed in their behavior, they're formed in action, but are still going through this trauma? What do you do? Because it's like now we're saying, well, you don't see well, you wear glasses. What happens now is that you have the trauma, then everybody starts seeing a therapist.
First is to realize, even before you say that now, you can see and all that, get to realize and first get to identify what are the issues. There is something we call presenting issues. Many of the times people will come, I don't get along with my boss. Even my social relationships, they are not perfect and all that. I'm in a dysfunctional family. They are all presenting issues because, again, as we say, for mental health, we feel the symptoms, and symptoms many of the times they are the results. But we need to dig deeper to the underlying, and we get to know, why are you like this? Maybe it's your early childhood attachment. You were brought up in a very avoidance attachment style, where because you wanted maybe your parents to be there or your caregivers to be there, they were never there. They were busy working. We are busy working 24/7. To a level that we forget we are supposed to be there also for the kids that we are bringing up. We are so transactional. And so when they come, they're not able to relate with people well. Why? They were taught love is transactional. So if I'm not asking about that email, that report, how are we dealing? But that's not what society is all about. So you realize over the time, people will have more issues. And when we are able to dig deeper, like what you've asked, we are able to revisit from the childhood, we start processing. And with that, it's a way that you can correct that behavior.
So there's a question that has been asked by our listeners. The world wants men to cry and speak up, but is the world ready?
The world is not yet ready until first we understand that mental health is about society, and empowering a girl child does not mean it's competition, because that's where it all began. We were busy empowering this girl child, forgetting we wanted to equip them to be on their own, but it came to be what a man can do, a woman can do better. That's a wrong phrase. It should not be there. It should not be a competition. In any way, we should be able to complement each other. So we must start by embracing who is this boy child, so that we can say now we are ready. Because how are we ready for you if you're still competing other than being able to complement each other?
Danish Odongo joins us as the host of Manspective Africa, and beyond just being a host, I think also then a personal experience. Danish, good morning.
Good morning. My apologies for being late.
Many have asked us, how do we have a conversation about men's health issues, and we're talking to a woman? But it's all the same. Yeah. Thank you for coming, and we're going to go to a break in just a bit, but let's get a perspective from you before we do that. And we've already started to dabble, and we're saying, are we dealing with a lot of men who have a lot of trauma, and how do we see the manifestation of that in today's world? How would I then be having a conversation with someone or be in a relationship with someone and realize, oh, hang on, something's not quite right here?
Yeah. So thank you so much for that question. So my personal experience in 2019, I really did get into a very bad mental health breakdown, and guess what led to it? It was literally a breakup, a romantic relationship breakup, which eventually sort of like was like pulling a thread that connected all my life. But then I realized that all these things were, bad, and things were going wrong. And then I went through treatment, went through therapy, I was on medication, I did a lot of journaling, and then eventually I recovered. So if you talk to me about this question in 2019, I would not have given you an answer, because I was just like many men. Because the very same things that can appear as, signs and symptoms of a man who's not mentally healthy are seen as really part and parcel of masculinity.
Such as,
for example, anger, fits of rage. Sometimes you feel like there's just this overwhelming rage, and we imagine that that's actually masculinity. But also sometimes just being withdrawn, and drugs and substance abuse, which is a major issue that many men deal with. But we imagine that you're not a man enough unless you're drinking a beer with your buddies and drinking until you're completely passed out, and we imagine that all these things are good. But what I've come to learn is that majority of some of these behaviors and traits we call masculine are actually, negative coping mechanisms to deep-seated psychological issues which we have not been taught to talk about, neither are we equipped to address. So what do? We bury them under, and then we show up wounded, and then we are bleeding on everybody else who did not cut us.
How do you know that you have this issue, Danish?
It's very difficult to know, honestly. It's very difficult to know, because if we talk about now the signs and symptoms, there are so many mental health challenges, many, over 300 by the way, and each has its own, sets of signs and symptoms. But let me talk about what men face a lot, which is drugs and substance abuse. If you are sensitive about that drink that you take, when people ask you, you're taking a little bit too much, and then you get offended, that is one of the first symptoms that you need to talk about this. If you're impulsive about it, if you cannot control it, if you cannot do work without a drink or without a shot or without all these things, then that often becomes a major sign. And for me, what I've come to learn in my work with mental health is that drugs and substance abuse is just the tip of the iceberg. The real issue now is under. So, but then that's what's showing as a major thing that everybody can see. Yeah.
But you see, Danish, we live at a time as well where when a man, say, does not drink, understand what I mean? Yeah. And you just say, I don't drink, I'm easy. The next question is, hey, well, when it can play up, and so you find men as well, they find themselves not having an option, because if you say you don't drink, then you are a player. If you drink, then perhaps then you are that guy. So how do we then deal with such? Because damn if you do, damn if you don't.
And I think that's often what we tell, but we mostly tell that to Christian men. Either you are a player or you drink. But I think that's a very narrow way to actually segment men, and I think we do a lot of damage. When it comes to the things that are about men, we have ways to really give them very succinct words that are not always very comprehensive. One, they call it deadbeat. We don't know the context, we don't know the reason why, this, we don't give men grace, And we are very, he's angry, he's unavailable. We have words to describe men. But, for example, there's a lady who, attempted to kill her children in Kitengela. We were like, oh, let's support her. There's something wrong with her. There is this thing that is going on. But if a man did attempt to do that thing, would actually be very quick to, to take them in and lynch them through mob injustice. Because in a world where we're living in, men, the joy of men is not celebrated. How men experience life is not understood. Because this world, while we say it's patriarchal, but I think it's deeply feminine. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to start deconstructing some of this now, because I think we're getting to the core of some of these issues. At 24 minutes to 8 o'clock, we're having a Healthy Friday conversation around the men's perspective, and we're looking and essentially stripping away a lot of these layers and saying it's about time we had real conversations about this thing that we want to call masculinity. We want to say human beings. So let's get into those conversations this morning as we do. Danish Odongo is here with us this morning, as well as psychologist Teresa Kainika. We continue with this conversation right after this. Don't go away at 24 to 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Are you passionate about creating a better future for Kenya? So is the I&M Foundation, the social investment arm of I&M Bank. For the past 5 years, they've invested 2% of the bank's annual profit, the highest in Kenya's banking sector, into life-changing programs from education and empowerment to protecting our environment. The I&M Foundation is driving real impact. I&M Foundation, impacting lives, shaping a suitable future, powered by I&M Bank.
Oh, great! This June, the biggest Club World Cup ever held is here. The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded free to the next higher bouquet for 60 days. A competition across the continent. 30 action-packed days of top-notch football from 32 best club teams from around the world. Recharge your subscription today to never miss a moment of a competition like never before. On the move, download StarTimes on and watch every goal, every moment, anytime, anywhere. StarTimes Sports, beyond passion. StarTimes, enjoy digital life.
Provides the inspiration for Leipzig.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Cloudy conditions in Nairobi this morning. We'll see highs of 25 and lows of 12. And we're looking into a cloudy Nakuru at 13 and a mostly cloudy Nyeri at 15. It's 12 degrees and cloudy into Eldoret, while Mombasa is sunny at 23. Malindi at 23 and 26 is sunny. 18 and clear into Kisumu, with 15 and cloudy conditions in Kakamega. Kampala is clear at 20, while Dar es Salaam is sunny at 23. Johannesburg 5 degrees and clear. Mogadishu is sunny at 26, and we're looking into a mostly sunny Addis Ababa at 14, and then into Lagos clear at 26, while Kinshasa is cloudy at 24. Friday afternoon is sunny in Beijing at 28, while Paris is cloudy at 19 and London is cloudy at 17. Round things off in New York, where it's clear Thursday night at 25, coming into Friday highs of 33 and lows of 21.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life.
All right, not too crazy in most parts of the city today. Getting into the weekend, and we're seeing some traffic coming off of North Airport Road going towards Outer Ring. Inbound traffic on Outer Ring also joins that. It's not too bad as you get towards the Cabanas interchange. We'll take a look at the Thika Superhighway with traffic coming in from Githurai through towards Garden City and then out towards Survey. Pretty busy, but all doable. It doesn't look too bad coming off of Kiambu Road. Limuru Road also with some traffic as you build towards Muthaiga. But then as you come off of Waiaki, where you're doing okay, and we will see some traffic start to move between Lower Kabete and Spring Valley. So we're getting into traffic hour. We'll talk, keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 98.5 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Coming in at 20.
This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.
Coming in at 20 minutes to the top of the hour at having a mental health conversation, or Healthy Friday conversation rather, around men's mental health. But it's interesting because Father's Day is coming up Sunday, and most times we kind of put men into the box literally and say, well, it's a gift for you and I'll buy you a tie. But Aseto seems to be able to tell us something different.
We're celebrating fatherhood in a different way this time round. We're used to ties, we're used to socks, we're used to underwears, you know what I mean? But right now we're doing it pretty different because we realize, and we all know, that fatherhood is a journey, and it's a journey of strength, wisdom, and quiet sacrifice. And here on Situation Room, we often talk about making the right choices, and we talk about making meaningful choices as well. This Father's Day with Woolworths, here's one. Danish, I'm talking to you directly. You also need to get a father gift out there. So give a dad a reason to smile, relax, and maybe even show off just a little bit, No more ties, no more belts. Let's show our appreciation with a gift that speaks style and substance. Woolworths is offering 30% off men's sleepwear, knitwear, jackets, and coats until 16th of June. Perfect for the dad who enjoys comfort, quality, with a flair. Now, whether it's a quiet night or a stylish evening with family, this is your chance to say thank you, Dad. Thank you to all the fathers out there with quality and that one that he'll equally feel. Now, something worthy of the man who's always been there, and visit your nearest Woolworths store today and shop in store. Terms and conditions apply, and Woolworths would say the difference.
Absolutely. And even just thinking about that, and I thought about, even the gifting. And I think that we have set up structures, and these are psychological structures. We've set them up, and we have almost immortalized those structures by the things then that we continue to speak and the things that we continue to say. And I think about my sons, and I say, I don't want a situation where these guys are going to grow up and they're not going to be able to express themselves because somebody has this fallacious construction about how one gender ought to be. And I think we do. I do agree with you, Danish. I think we've done men a disservice. And I think that we have focused on one gender at the expense of another. And I think that whether it's cultural, whether it's and I saw a comment, and we often bring in our audience here, and somebody said, well, you know what? It's only here in Africa where we say a crying man is a weak man. Go to other places. You won't hear that. In fact, somebody tells you that your strength is found when you are able to have a manifestation of that whatever weak feeling that we have described that you may be feeling. So we're going to come to you in just a minute, Teresa. But Danish, how then are we getting to a place where we can actually strip away, because we strip away these falsities, because that's what they are. And that we have many men in a very terrible situation today, and even still, the people who are with them don't know. I say, women don't know how to deal with a man who might be having an issue, because they themselves are thinking, how do I deal with this one who's supposed to be strong all the time? Yeah. How?
So on my Perspective show, which actually airs on KTN, by the way, 10:30 p.m. every Wednesday night, I've hosted... recently I hosted a psychologist who told me something that really, really profound. She's a lady. Her name is Stella. She told me that the way we give care, or the way we talk about care is and I know this might sound controversial, but it's the truth. It's about, she called it feminine. So she said that psychology mostly is designed to deal with women, because majority of them are the ones who've gotten help, and therefore a lot of evidence and facts that have been used to develop all these models mostly are feminine. And then she said that it's very easy to miss the symptoms of depression in a man as compared to the symptoms of depression in a woman. Because for example, she told me that in a man, the symptom of depression might not be closing the windows and being moody and not working out. It might be that they're impulsive, they drive recklessly, they have fits of rage. Those could actually be masculine signs of depression, and so we miss that. But secondly is talk therapy. So talk therapy is the widely used model to deal with psychological issues. We have cognitive behavioral therapy and many forms of therapy, but talk therapy is what is used a lot here. But men don't respond to talk therapy really well. But we don't ask ourselves, what would psychology that meets the need of men look like? Would it be somewhere in a bundu, somewhere around fellow men in a fire with meat, doing therapy for men? How would it look like to really design these things that, eventually can change? And why we don't do that is because we don't imagine the impact and the cost we are paying for neglecting men's mental health. We see it in accidents. Do you guys know that 80% of fatal road accidents, deaths in this road of Nairobi, they are men? Do you know that a huge chunk of, more women are diagnosed with HIV, but men 3 times die from HIV, yet they're diagnosed less because of health-seeking behaviors, which is still a masculinity issue. Do you know that...
Oh, hang on.
Yeah.
They're diagnosed because they've actually gone to seek healthcare. But men won't go to seek it, so they're not diagnosed. So the numbers show up because the women are going to seek the help.
Yeah. Women are seeking the help and they are adhering to treatment.
Okay.
Men are diagnosed, even though they are less, their numbers are less, but they don't adhere to treatment because also this form of masculinity that imagines that taking antiretroviral therapy is weakness or adhering to plan eventually leads to more men dying by HIV, even though they are diagnosed less. So we have got to look at the cost of this toxic masculinity as a national disaster. I recently wrote an article which went really well, and it was about the death of Albert Ojwang. And I said, how can you be a big man in a big office with a big title, yet you are trailing a 31-year-old man who is a father and using the machinery, which he is the one who pays through his taxes to get him like a terrorist. You're a big man. You've been in this space for over 25 years. You have worked with bomb detonation. You've done all these things. But the problem is that if we don't address this masculinity, it will show up in leadership problem where we are weak. We have weak men who are dressed up in nice suits with big titles and big guns, and then they will brutalize the young men. Because, by the way, the biggest risk factor for any young man in this country, especially in urban areas, is a male police with a gun. Because the extrajudicial executions that happens in the informal settlements across this country, we have a huge number of tragedy, and because of men who have been taught that, oh, by the way, it's about muzzling how you feel, it's about being brutal, it's about being violent, it's about being aggressive, and then you hide all that by acquiring wealth. Now, wanakuuliza, well, what do you have? And all these things affect literally every level of the society. So even as we do the gender-based violence and the femicide, task force, I hope that the government can now begin to imagine a task force for men. And it's not to come and begin to say, oh, men don't cry. No, it is to look at the systemic issues that are the problems we are dealing with in our socio-economic and political landscape and try and trace it to this toxic strain of masculinity, this toxic strain of masculinity which lies to men that you are only as good as the car you drive, you're only as good as the money you make, you're only as good as your amount to expend violence, really. And then we see it having a problem in our level of society.
Is it time we take into consideration, Teresa, that these are things that are affecting across board? Because we often then think about mental health as the one that affects you in your sitting room when the curtains are drawn under the cover of darkness. But we never extrapolate it to society, to jobs, to government, to leadership. We never say that, hold on a minute, this strain could be the thing that's affecting and is exemplified in the issues that we see.
Yeah.
I agree with you. When you look at leadership, the same way he's saying, there is a lot of reflection, because what we say is hurt people. So you grow. You yourself, you've not been able to deal with anything that you're going through. And so you'll become that person. The much you can do is to pour out, pain to other people. And this can only be felt when other people they are receiving. And that's why most of the people, it will take someone to say, I think you are not okay. Shouting, dictatorship, all these things you're seeing. Also, when someone wants to have everything by their own, Could it be they're dealing with a void? They grew up in scarce, and so they want to refill what they never grew up with. You know, those are some of the things that are happening. Also, let's look at our offices. We've seen we are working male, female, but many other times we forget that we are all employees and we want to use the gender. It's okay for a female employee to be off duty and to call in sick, to call in that they want to go and take care of the kid. But what happens when it's on the opposite? When a male employee, many other times, I'm not saying all through, they call in, but why are you the one to go to their school? So you see the structure. We start by even telling them, you don't have, because a man, there is the roles for the men. We now start again talking about or having stigma around the roles for the men, and now we have the roles for women. And so when it comes to taking care of the children and all that, this should be for the women, and for the man, yours is just to go out there. Hence, at what time are you teaching them that you need to parent? What about the kids that are growing in this family? Who will they grow to look up to? Then a time comes, they've lost their identity, they are given power, they are in leadership. What are you expecting them to do? So it's so much. But one thing I can say is we've seen a very big improvement. Nowadays, men are also calling in. They are calling for help. They are coming for therapy. They've been able to recognize that this is not about me. This is not my label. This is not my title. This is not my name. They've been able to see that I have an issue, I'm not okay, and I need to have it dealt with.
You see, but we talk about, you've mentioned something that is very critical, which is on the modules being used, say, in psychological spaces to seek treatment and assistance. And for a very long time, it has been used of women. So it's pretty much designed to deal with issues around women. And here is a situation where the accidents we see, it is a lot of men causing these accidents. Perhaps it's a problem that we see. But when it comes, say, to dealing with that, no one has ever thought of, let's go for a road trip in a straight line and you have to follow each other during that time. If there is a conversation through walkie-talkies, because I've seen some guys, some YouTubers in America do that. Through walkie-talkies, people are sharing as they drive. And because the speed has been limited, at the end of the journey, say here to Mombasa, you find people have really poured out their hearts and a solution is being sought at the end of the journey. Now people sit in a fireplace and they have these conversations. So just in terms of going back to the curriculum that is being taught to psychologists on how to approach things differently, is that a way for us to start looking at solutions perhaps?
The first call is for men to join psychology because almost 80% of psychologists are also women. Yeah. The enrollment, I was with this college that does psychology, a man counseling center. They were telling us that, by the way, we're not having any men who are, enrolling to be psychologists. If you go to USIU PhD program, it's entirely women. If you go to Daystar postgraduate for psychology, almost 80% of them are women, So if we also don't frame psychology as a career that also men can pursue, because it's still a gendered conversation, because we imagine men to be on top of pylons like Kenya Power or Kengen and dealing with engineering.
Or with a big gun.
It's a big gun, exactly. Yeah. We don't imagine a man being a caregiver, because that is seen as the role of a woman. So, so these gendered conversations hurt all of us, But let me just add something also small. I like what you've said. But we don't often think about the man who cannot have a car.
Yes.
The man who cannot afford to take a day off.
There you go.
And the man who is riding a boda in my village in Ongechi in Nyando constituency. Because also the sort of I last year I worked with I was invited to a Kengen event, and of course I've seen Frank, their marketing and communication person, telling me that he's watching, and they brought all these Kengen men together in Nairobi, and it was a beautiful day for them to be impacted and for them to be empowered, and there were a series of conversations, health, money, and all this sort of stuff. So corporates are doing that and they're getting it right. But we must ask ourselves, how about that man who cannot take a day off? How does he process his frustration?
Or the man who is then sitting under the weight of expectation from people around him, including women. And it could be the mother, it could be the wife, it could be the daughter who is saying, well, here it is, and we're expecting you to be able to do 1, 2, 3. Yeah. And then I'm just imagining the conversations that are currently happening in the country today. And I'm thinking, right? If we are just looking within the police force, for example, we see them as the police. We don't see them as men or women. These are the police who we say, well, they've gone on wanton rampage. They've done whatever it is that they've done. I don't see them as... It's a social construct, but we don't see them as an individual. And that comparison that you've made, you said, what could be deeper that you in your position would want to take out whatever frustrations you're feeling to somebody, take them out on somebody else who may have been innocent in their trade. So what is this thing? Because it's a lot deeper than the gun and the book and the desk and the car. It's deeper than that, and it's the thing inside. But if you don't heal people, you're not going to have a healthy society.
You can't heal people, because I have a nephew who is now doing NYS. That's a low-level paramilitary training in this country. And he told me the number of caning he got every day as a normal training regimen. Then I asked him, what is the objective of this paramilitary training? He said, tunakuondoa ujinga na uraia. Ujinga na uraia, which means in the mind of our security forces, you find that raia these are citizens. Being a citizen and being ujinga, those are things that go hand in hand. And so this curriculum is designed to beat you. It's designed you. to meet violence at a large scale, But they don't think that policing that is primarily designed to break will first break the police, because as you already know, there's a massive mental health crisis within the police force.
Yes.
When I was admitted at Chiromo, in the room I had 3 other police officers who also admitted with me. And those are the people who we are saying are taking care of our very most vital role, which is security. So I think we must also begin to call the police and let them see that the only sustainable way to police in this country is a policing that upholds human rights and upholds human dignity. This idea that you have to beat people and shoot them and completely suppress them
and kill them,
this thing we will have such a broken country. Like South Africa, we will have such a broken country that will not be able to afford it. So we'll just be saying now, let's hire more private security, let's give private security guns, let us have higher walls, let us have electric fences, because the men who are presiding over these things, they themselves have not healed. They themselves have not dealt with their childhood trauma. They themselves have not processed and seen the impact of the decisions they make, which are policy decisions, which are now government policies, and eventually how it breaks the nation.
You see, there is the aspect of the men have been told not to cry and whatnot. Then there is the women on the other side who have been emboldened to be stronger. What a man can do, a woman can do better. But now it is a point where we realize the disconnect that has, and the need to equally bring men on the table to be able to have this conversation. So then how do we involve women to be supporters of men, even as we seek for solutions among men?
It's by first normalizing and being able to see them as human beings, not just as men, and to label as per what society has done all through, because we'll not be doing them any just, and we'll just be like those people who stereotype the men and say that women empowerment, it's all about competing with men. It's also a show of self-compassion, first from where you are as a man. It's okay to be where I am, and I am so much broken, and to be able to recognize our emotions. Many are the time that we don't. We will think it's about other people. I am angry, I'm bitter. You just need to call and have a name to the emotion that you're going through. Then from there, be able to say, how have I changed? What resonated to this? Like, have I just woken up like this? Have you woken up just angry? Have you woken up just happy? Get to know. Also, let's look at the coping mechanism. I like the way we are discussing about men. It's also good to talk about men and suicide cases, because that's something and a topic that we really talk about. Now, statistics shows that that is the global statistic, that globally, as per WHO, we have 740,000 cases that have been reported within, a year. That is suicidal cases, which means every 43 seconds we are losing a human being on suicide. Then when we break it down and we say, let's look at men, the ratio of men to women in this, and you realize close to 80% it's men. And the question is, how comes men statistic is actually growing? Before we were talking about like close to 76%. How comes it's still growing? It's because we are not able to allow them to extend the grace and say, it's okay, they can come and they can share. So the first call I can do to men out there, it's okay to feel the way you are feeling. It's okay to have disturbing thoughts. But it's not okay to keep quiet about it. Because if you do, it will lead to a maladaptive behavior. Alcoholism, addiction. Like at All Smiles, we run a rehabilitation center, and I can tell you ever the highest percentage is men who come in because of substance use. And why? Because for them, they were taught the only way I can cope with this is by maladaptive behavior. I need to take in substance for me to cope with what I'm going through.
And through all this, there is definitely something that can be done. Time doesn't allow us the luxury of then being able to go into these conversations deeper. But once that, we must continue having. We can't have a one-time conversation and then not talk about it again. But in the meantime, I want to thank you both for being here. Teresa Kainika, the psychologist and CEO of All Smiles Therapy Center, and Danish Odongo, host of Man's Perspective Africa. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being open. Thank you for being honest. And let's keep talking. Good morning and 8:01.
I'm Edwin Lisamira. The Cabinet Secretary for Cooperatives and Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development, Wycliffe Oparanya, has reiterated the government's commitment to mobilizing more investment to boost the revival of the coffee industry and increase its share in the international market. Speaking in Boni, Makueni County, Oparanya said the government is keen on addressing challenges facing coffee farmers, including market volatility and environmental issues, to boost their income.
Kahawa ni kitu ya maana kabisa, na mwenyewe rais alisema ya kwamba anataka kilimo ya kahawa itoke, ile mavuno ya kahawa itoke tani 51,000 wakati huu iende 151 tukifika 2028-2029 financial year. Na hii si rahisi, kwa sababu si mimi takuwa nalima kahawa hiyo peke yangu. Kwa sababu mimi peke yangu nikilima sina shamba ya kutoa hiyo tani hizo zote. Si rahisi atakuwa analima hiyo. Ni nyinyi wakulima katika Kenya yetu.
Oparanya also encouraged communities in coffee growing counties to embrace coffee farming.
Na nyinyi mkiwa wakulima, paka uweke maanani kwa mambo ya kilimo. Kwa sababu usiingie tu kilimo kwa sababu mwingine ameingia. Uchukue kilimo kama ni biashara. Biashara ambayo itasaidia wewe. Na wakati rais aliamua kilimo ya kahawa itoke 50,000 iende 150. Sisi wale ambao tunafanya kazi na yeye, paka tuangalie ni njia gani ambayo itawezesha sisi kufika pale.
A multi-agency team on Thursday intercepted 2 trucks ferrying a total of 520 bags of sugar at the Taveta one-stop border post suspected to be smuggled from Tanzania. Each truck had 260 bags of the contraband sugar weighing 50 kilograms each. The Kenya Revenue Authority said the sugar was impounded in a major operation aimed at combating smuggling and safeguarding the local sugar industry. This brings the total number of bags of contraband sugar seized at the Coastal Border Post to 664 after another 144 bags were seized at the Lungalunga one-stop border post 2 weeks ago. In Homa Bay County, residents have welcomed Treasury CS John Barty's budget estimates, particularly his proposal to allocate 600 million shillings for the Kenya ferry ramp in Mombasa and acquisition of ferries for Lake Victoria. Eric Nyakie is one of the residents.
We have seen greater locations in key areas that are touching life, especially on increased transport and mobility in the lake transport. We have seen the allocation for the ferry. We've also seen an enhanced allocation towards supporting persons living with disability and the women groups.
Another resident, Jared Obuoro, said the allocation will boost the maritime industry.
And this is going to improve on various aspects of the economy in terms of supporting the fisher folks and other people relying on the Lake Victoria in terms of livelihood. We have the women and even the youths, those who are operating in the lake, and even lake security. I think this money is going to touch on them. And this is a big boost for our economy at the region. It's going to help us, and it will trickle down to other sectors of the economy.
Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has visited the scene of the Air India plane crash in Ahmedabad and is meeting injured people in hospital. All but one of the 242 people on board the London-bound flight died when it crashed into a residential area shortly after takeoff on Thursday. It's not yet known how many people on the ground were killed. Families have been giving DNA samples to help identify the victims. The sole survivor, British national Vishwash Kumar Ramesh, who sat in seat 11A, is recovering in hospital, with his brother saying he's no idea how he survived. There were 169 Indian nationals, 53 Britons, 7 Portuguese nationals and 1 Canadian on the flight. That's the news wire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, at a few minutes after 8 o'clock, a question of what it looks like on the roads this morning, and traffic has built on the thicker superhighway. Nothing crazy though. Getting into the weekend, we will not normally see so much, but it is actually heavy as you come from Survey out towards Muranga Road at the junction in one direction and then through towards Wangari Maathai Way on the other. Traffic coming in on Kiambu Road, not too sticky, but it'll find a bit of a hold up as you then approach Muthaiga Square. What else are we looking at? Traffic forming coming off of Langata Road, and then you'll get to what was Aerodrome Road before, with some traffic as you then get onto Huru Highway. It's busy coming off of Jago Road going towards Landis and then out towards Kamkunji, and then also coming off of North Airport Road, touching with what's coming off of Outer Ring. That is busy as well. We're in traffic hour for Friday. Doesn't look too bad, but we're going to keep an eye on all of this. You talk to us about what's happening in your direction. We'll talk and keep things moving. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
A very good morning to you, 8 after 8. And this is the Situation Room, streaming on platforms YouTube, Facebook, and on X, and our audience on KTN. Good morning to you. And as we get into conversations this hour, the question is, how passionate are you, or are you passionate really about seeing development happen in the spaces in which you operate? Well, if you are, that's great. And you're not the only one who is passionate about such things. The INM Bank Foundation, rather the INM Foundation, has been in the business of passion around a lot of these development agenda, and one of those big ones is environmental conservation. And as we have been looking at some of these issues, the INM Foundation, which is the branch of the INM Bank, which has been involved in over the last 5 years putting away 2% of its annual profit, the largest in the Kenyan banking sector, towards some of these initiatives. And now they say, you know what, they've demonstrated leadership. leadership in what we want to highlight in environmental conservation. It has also gone around other pillars of education and skills development, economic empowerment, and enabling giving. And they've been able to do this to protect natural heritage through strategic partnerships and community-led initiatives, ensuring a sustainable future for all. They believe in impact, and are achieving this through focused action. If you want to see more about what that impact is, go to the website imbankgroup.com/foundation. Find out a lot of this work and how it's being done, and how you can actually also collaborate to make sure that futures are actually preserved. It's powered by I&M Bank. And what else can you do with your money?
Yes, as we talk about I&M Bank, there is one thing that each and every society keeps on talking about: saving and saving for the future. And it's a struggle on how to start. And I&M is here to just ask you the question: are you struggling to save and just even knowing where to start from? Well, I&M is here to tell you that they have you sorted, and that I&M Bank will ensure that you achieve your dreams with the Fikisha Gold Savings Account. Now, the easy digital way to save for what matters the most. And for your immediate needs, use I&M's Buy Now, Pay Later. Purchase items from your favorite stores now and pay in affordable installments. It's always interesting that you don't have the funds today, but I&M is here to tell you can buy today, pay later, just to make it easy for you to have that quality of life that you want. Now, save tomorrow while living comfortably today. Get started now. Open your individual or solo biz account today via the I&M Bank OTG app. That is the I&M Bank on the go app. That is where you go. Saving is a problem, I&M tells you we have you sorted.
Fantastic. Looking at facts, looking at figures, and that's what we do getting into this conversation. The Secretary General of the Jubilee Party is Jeremiah Kioni, and he is in the hot seat this morning as we get into vital conversations for the day. SG, good morning.
Morning, everybody.
How are you doing?
Like all Kenyans, wake up to many things, thanking God for being alive, but always sorrowful for the things happening around us in this country.
Indeed.
Yeah, yesterday was not a good day. The last couple of days, we have been treated to the most, horrible thing. Death of a young person, that 1-year-old man dying in the hands of the people who are supposed to take care of you. Those are the kind of things that make us a little sad every day we wake up.
Indeed.
And not a little sad. It's really worrying, horrifying. And you keep trying to do something that can help us get out of this mess. Yes.
That's true. And we're going to look into a little bit more of that. And unfortunately, I keep saying, and I've said for the last couple of weeks, that it should be very difficult for us to find some of these horrible stories, but I think it's getting more and more difficult to not find them.
Yes.
On a lighter note, someone said that perhaps you should give me your hat. I complete the outfit if we're going to go red. Let Dennis welcome you to today's show with our proverb bits from Uganda.
He does very tough ones. I hope today he has something.
Let's see what he's taken his delegated responsibility to.
Yeah. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. It is a country that is the source of the River Nile. So, as well as Africa's tallest mountains, the Rwenzori, still in that country, and the rich biodiversity that the country has: 10 national parks, 60 protected areas, and over 1,000 bird species. So, SG, if you are a person who loves bird watching, Uganda is the place to be. And not just birds, they equally have 50% of the world's gorillas. So those the gorillas, as they say, they're close to us. They are our cousins. You could go and just say hi to them, But the proverb today: a bird will always use the feathers of another bird to build its nest.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Yes, I think from a more positive point is it's good to use the wisdom, the experience of others for you to know how to navigate some issues. But the misfortune of others could also be the fortune of others.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. We now have this guy called Dragat. He's called Dragat, the DIG. Whom I joined Kenyans in saying that he should have left office a couple of days ago. But when he leaves, another one will be appointed. So those will be the feathers of Lagat.
Yeah.
Wow, that's an interesting take.
But you forgot that in Uganda also we have one of the longest-serving presidents in the continent.
39 years.
39 years in power. So that's perhaps something we should add to the many things we should know Uganda for.
And perhaps something else that we should add, even as we hear of that interpretation, is that, since Sunday, Kenya has been thrown into a whirlwind of questions. Questions are demanding for accountability, demanding for justice when it comes to certain things, because Albert Omondi Ojwang was murdered. He did not hit his head by himself against the wall or, plunge himself off a cliff somewhere. He was murdered, and that blood is on the hands of someone or some people of whom we are yet to know. We do know that IPOA has said that they're ready to charge 3 people. One of them has already been named. We do not know, but we do know that Kenyans will ask questions as to the rationale of why that person would be charged over another. Now, while all that is happening, something which may go unbeknownst to very many people is that around this same time, 2 more bodies of individuals were found.
My goodness.
A post-mortem on the bodies of 2 men abducted in Kerio Valley and later executed has revealed the extent of torture they underwent at the hands of suspected law enforcers. Families of Simon Yego, 45, and Collins Kipiatich, 22, were present yesterday during the exercise that left them broken as they looked at the mutilated bodies recovered in Rongai, Nakuru on the 1st of June 2025. That's just 12 days ago. According to a report by government pathologist Dr. Titus Ngunglungu, which the Standard has seen, Kipiatich was strangled and physically assaulted by his killers. The cause of death was asphyxia caused by manual neck compression. The lungs collapsed. The body had injuries on the neck, back, ears and chest, the report said. In part, the further revealed that Kipiatich's hands had been chopped off at the wrist. He had countless injuries on his body with blood clots as a result of physical beating. There were marks on the neck which also showed he was strangled with a string, said David Kuria, human rights defender present during the exercise. The post-mortem revealed that Yego also suffered the same fate, with indications that he was suffocated. The cause of death was asphyxia due to covering pressure to the mouth and nose. He also had his hands chopped off at the wrist. Dr. Ngulungu said this in his report. The report further indicated that the deceased had suffered brain injuries due to blunt trauma to his head, with other injuries distributed to his chest, legs and back. The mouth and nose were deformed. These show that they were tortured for a long time. This was not a beating that happened for just a few minutes, said Kuria. Yego and Kipiatich were abducted on the same day in Tot, Elgeyo Marakwet, on the 30th of May. And their lifeless bodies were found dumped in Kapnyangale village, their legs tied in ropes. According to Benjamin Yego, a brother to Yego, no one should experience this form of torture in a free country, regardless of their offence. The government must own up to this atrocity and those behind the action arrested. That's a story that we carry in the Standard this morning. Unfortunately, this appears to be the situation that is being dealt with too many a time. And I keep saying that one time is too many, but this is the situation that we face. Albert Omondi Ojwang, that story is front and center. But look at this that we see. 2 gentlemen abducted by who were said to be law enforcers at one point. And we've read the budget yesterday, and there are protests going on in the city. And now we are seated with you where leadership and governance in the way in which it should be upheld in this country is wanting. Jeremiah?
Very sad. Really a very sad affair. And if you going through the kind of torture they went through is exactly what we heard of Ojwang. You know, this time they are not telling us he banged his head against the wall, but you can see, you can associate the same injuries that with the post-mortem that was given to us of this young man, Albert Ojwang. So you can actually see how terrible this country or how far we have sunk. When Isaac Hassan, and I'm happy that he's back into the country, was giving, was being questioned by members of parliament yesterday, I think he also said that in the last 4 months, we have lost 20 lives in the hands of police.
Yeah.
I don't know whether the two gentlemen you again led,
in Tot
and Diego and Simon are part of the 20. But it goes to tell us how much our institutions have failed. Before we've been here and we've talked about institutional capture. When we were giving ourselves, and I think I need to say something which has just struck to me when I was coming here and wondering what is it that is perhaps causing some of these individuals to behave the way they are behaving. This is like the people in power are using the old constitution to help them, or they must be reading parts of the old constitution because why we came up with institutions like IPOA was because these are things we used to hear during the Kanu regime or under the regime that was there before we gave ourselves the multi-party democracy and the new constitution. And I do not know, we need to find out whether at any one time there were even interns during the Moi regime, because they are replaying exactly what was being done when we were fighting for multi-party democracy. But it is also telling, I think it must have been last week, this month of June, 11th of June actually, uko pande ya Kinangop in my home county of Nyandarua, where this lady lost her child when in police custody.
Yes.
And what transpired there is different from what we are now seeing. The OCS, the officer in charge of that police post, was immediately interdicted. So why the double standard? Why is it that Ragat is still in office? He should have left earlier than yesterday. There cannot be two standards when you're managing these institutions. But also, IPOA. A lot must be said about the failure of IPOA to live up to the expectations of our constitution. IPOA are supposed to oversight the police independently. But what I've seen in the last couple of days is members of IPOA being flanked by the police officers. And they're saying we are going to investigate this case. And they're supposed to be independent of the people. In fact, we are receiving reports on what they are doing from the police officers. And for as long as IPOA continues behaving that way, we can expect more police officers to continue corroborating us and killing our young people, killing us, because there is no individual culpability. People are not being held responsible for the atrocities that they commit as individuals, because there is nobody who should say that they corroborated Ojwang because they were doing it on behalf of us as the state. That's not the way we would want any one of us treated when he's the heads of the police. And when you behave that way, it is because you've gone out of what we mandated you as Kenyans to do whenever it is that you have one of us under custody. Na pale tulikuwa tunafikiri ya kwamba police station ni pahali ya kuhudumiwa, sasa imekuwa ni pahali ya kushughulikiwa. Ukipatikana na askari ni askari, ujue sasa watakushughulikia. So, and you can see this guy was apprehensive. He was asking, is the Fred or the brother? He was asking, how is it in police cells?
Is it safe? Yes.
Is it safe? He could tell. It's like, and you really don't want to think of what the person who was talking over the other side of the call is going through. It must be terrible. The mother, the wife, at that 1 year old is when everybody is seeing, enjoying, or starting to celebrate what did God give us in form of a child, son, father, and all that is taken away from us. So it's a very sad time for us, a country, a time that we must make sure that we all come together to bring about changes. We have just about a year down the line since we lost quite a number of young people, the Gen Zs, during the last year's demonstrations as a result of failed policies that were included among many other bills, the finance bill, now perhaps the finance act. And many of us have been saying that 25th of June should be marked as a holiday. And I came with my hat here because maybe nobody has ever explained this, but the red color, and it was there even with the TNA. Why it's picked is because it reminds us of those who fought for the independence of this country. And not just independence, who have fought to liberate us from many things. And in that category now falls the likes of the Gen Zs, the Rex Masai, and of course Albert. He died because he did a tweet against a person,
allegedly,
so to speak.
Allegedly.
And I was asking myself, if it's a question of how many people have said things you do not like about you on social media, then we will be corroborating each other on a daily basis. And I think those in positions of authority needs to perhaps be taken through a training of how do you behave, because this is part of us. There's nothing you're going to do about it. I remember the former president, Uhuru Kenyatta, joking with Maraga. I don't know whether you can remember that scenario, where Maraga had woken up one morning and complained about the insults that he was receiving from the social media, and the president was telling him, welcome to our world. We are used to this. When we were trying to do a law to regulate this, these are the issues we go through on a daily basis. And I know I have also received my share of insults as SG of Jubilee, blah, blah, in the last couple of
And yet you never felt as though you needed to torture or kill somebody.
One of the things that you do is that you can avoid leading it. I mean, if you go through, you can scheme and see, if I internalize this, it's just going to hurt me. So just ignore it and move on. What benefit does it take for you to read it and get hurt and then go out and look for that person and start hurting? I mean, it shows we have quite a number of people in public offices who have not been properly grilled as to, or taught or counseled as to how they should deal with some of these issues. We cannot kill people on account of just calling you anything on a tweet.
And SG, there is the talk of double standards when it comes to dealing with deaths that we continue to experience in the country. If you remember, June 25th, the deaths of Gen Zs, Kenyans who died during the protest, up to date, there is no clear understanding on where the investigations are. We are, then again, we saw the death of Member of Parliament Ongondo Were, and the speed with which the police went in to investigate the matter, arrest the suspects, and we saw how good our police are when it comes to doing investigations and bringing people to book. But then again, there is this subject of Albert, talk about the individuals in tort, talk about the Narok killings as well, and investigations into these incidences. And there is seemingly a lot of time is being taken by the very same police who did a very good job while investigating Ongondo's death. Which then leads us to the next question. Does the police exist to serve a specific crop of individuals in the country while the masses, you're on your own?
And that is what was being answered by the creation of IPOA, to try to the best that we could remove the cover-ups. Because what we are now seeing here is a clear case of cover-up. If Albert was picked in the wee hours of the night from a police station, and there was no break-in, there was only switching off of cameras, CCTV cameras. These guys have the truth. The DCI fella knows exactly what happened, and every time they come before either the Senate or the National Assembly, they are just perfecting their art of covering up. Because they know. I mean, this is not somewhere in the village. It's not somewhere in the bush. We're talking of Central Police Station. Somebody walks in, he is given a rimandi to go with, and anarudisha kama gunia ya viazi usiku. Anakona gari. I mean, what is this that we are being treated? Everybody who was involved in that whole process should be interdicted. These officers who are covering up, the DCI, Kaja himself must be having a proper file. Even huyu mtu wa NIS anaitwa nani? Nurdin Haji. All these people have this information. And the issue of Wele tells you that if we want to uncover anything in this country, like this.
Yeah.
We have cameras along the roads. You can tell vehicles moving from point A to point, and they have all these. So there is nothing like saying that you're investigating. These people know who did this, where it was done, even how it was. And the fact that we are also being told, I don't know how accurate it is, that Ragat is likely to have been physically present during the place where the torturing was being done. In any case, he is the one who gave instructions for this guy to be removed from all the way from Homa Bay. I am told he was picked on motorbikes into a vehicle and to Nairobi. So he must have remained in charge of the whole process, including the corroboring.
You know, Jeremiah,
and then you can see the level of impunity. We are back in the streets. Correctly so, this demonstration should be there. And even yesterday, they were still using live bullets. I mean, you could see confrontation. These people and police officers coming to you, covered like terrorists.
Despite a court order.
And there's a court order. Wanajifunika kama jasusi, wamekuja kukuchurikia. So it's just a matter of, and we thank God that cameras are there, phones are there, they are all recording. Imagine if you are in a place where you are certainly secluded and he is aware it is only you and him, you are dead.
You're dead. But it is interesting because things kind of take a different turn, where we're now essentially being told without being told that investigations are taking place and that you need to allow due process. We heard just as much come from the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, C.S. Murukomen, when he said, well, you know, investigations are taking place. They're not able to say 1 to 3. Allow the process to essentially. We heard Junet Mohammed yesterday in Parliament say the words that we are spending too much time grieving over something. We have work to be done, essentially. And he said, if you were looking for something to grieve over, kill your own son and then you can grieve. I don't know if it was temporary insanity. I don't know what was happening in that particular case. But these are the things that we hear. How do we resonate or connect between the two?
It's under the powers of the privileged position of members of parliament to just tell us anything that comes to his mind. I'm sure he was on the floor of parliament when he said
he was.
You can't hold that against him, like you cannot take him to court because he has the privileges of but that does not allow you.
I'm sorry.
When you're on the floor
of the house, you basically can say whatever you want.
You have the protection that is a privileged place where you literally almost talk, but doesn't allow you to talk carelessly. It reflects on you. You remember, and that's why you remember Farah Malim saying, if I were the one, I would deal with 5,000 of them. Nothing was done to him. He then goes to this other side and says, Nini ya mama yenyu. The other side, he gets away with it. We are on this other side, and after the demonstration, William himself comes and calls all of us criminals. It's a terrorist act. So what has happened in this country is that there is now loss of total. If there's anything like that, there's no trust that we have on those in power, including those in those offices, the police officers, because we know where they derive their authority from. And it is a situation that we are going to be in for the coming number of days until our general elections. That's the only hope that is there now. When I hope you and I hope we are all on the same, or Kenyans, we are on the same page, we bring around changes, because we need to get back that faith in our systems. And I know, Dennis, you must have been much smaller than you are today back in 2002. 2002, I don't know where you are, but we were able to remove that one-party state. We got rid of Kanu regime that had done all this kind of havoc to us for a period of about 24 years. And when that happened, Kenyans woke up and they would see a police officer receiving bribes from a matatu. They would land for him, get hold of him, and take him to the cells. Why? Because people have now gained back confidence and trust in the system. we are now at a point where it's all gone. And the next person who takes power must know the kind of responsibility or expectations that are going to be there. And that's what has happened. Remember, even as you talk about Junet on the floor of the House, up to today, the army is still in the streets. They passed that motion to allow the army to be caught, and they have never done another motion to rescind what they had done. So even as you see young people going to the streets, and it doesn't have to be just young people. You never know what it will take to bring out everybody into the streets very soon. At the back of the mind, you know that you have members of parliament who unleashed the army to Kenyans to date. And that doesn't make them have sleepless nights. They wonder, why are we wasting so much time talking about it, in the words of Mohammed Junet? Why are we grieving? But remember also Arachi said something the other day. You remember Beatrice Arachi, I think, said a similar statement during the Gen Zs. It was at Bomas. The very unfortunate thing that we wish to nobody, you don't want people to remember you for the words you said that were wrong, and those words never leave.
They don't.
They stick in our minds. I was in secondary school when I think a member of parliament, Mungai, said that those of us who were speaking against the government then, like Ojwang has done by writing something against the performance of a person, those of us who are up against the corrupt ways of the KANU regime, well, alisema tukatwe masikio. I still remember that. And he died a long time ago. But I remember the words more than I remember anything else he did.
You won't forget how that made you feel, will you?
Junet, Farah Maalim na wengine. These things you keep saying because you are at privileged position are things that you make you be remembered for. And unfortunately, you can get your own family associated with statements of that nature. We are responsible not for just today, but for what many, many years after you are gone. And the people you may leave suffering are your own kids.
Indeed.
I mean, are your own members of family. And this is why I urge those in positions of authority, whatever nature, if you think there is a blogger who wakes up every morning to irritate you, avoid reading anything that he has done on the tweet.
Absolutely, you can look.
You can even block it.
Yeah.
You don't need to. Don't bother. That's how I deal with it. And you'll continue. The other guy will continue. Siku moja mtakutana na msalimiane wabi huko bado huko unaendelea.
And then we move on.
Yeah, and
we move on.
It's a very sad thing.
Let's take a break at this point at 23 minutes to 9 o'clock. Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, Jeremiah Kioni, is here with us this morning. And we're going to come back from the break and then ask which way forward. Somebody said something yesterday, and we take into everybody who comments on this show. And one thing that rang out very clear to me yesterday, so you know what? Everybody has got to go. We cannot have a different kind of situation with the same people who are fanning the flames of the orchestra. So we'll come back and continue with that conversation when you tell us, Dennis, about Woolies and what's up for grabs.
Yes, and Woolies is coming in making sure that fathers, during this Father's Day, which will be on Sunday, are celebrated and in a very unique way. Because let's face it, how many of us have dads who rock the same jacket from 1995? My dad has a very beautiful cardigan, and I know it's been there. I think I found it. But that notwithstanding, we have to upgrade them. But how exactly do we do that? Woolworths is telling you that this Father's Day, you will get 30% off men's sleepwear, knitwear, jackets, and coats. And yes, the men's cozy, classy, and cool options he'll absolutely love. Dads out there are being decked up proper. Now, whether it's a chill day indoors or dinner out, Woolworths has the perfect gift waiting. Slide into the store near you, grab the good stuff, and make this Father's Day unforgettable. Offer ends on the 16th of June. Time is not on your side. Terms and conditions apply, and Woolworths tells you it is the difference.
Get it at 21 minutes to 9.
This is the
Oh, great! This June, the biggest biggest Club World Cup ever held is here. The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded free to the next higher bouquet for 60 days. A competition across the continents. 30 action-packed days of top-notch football from 32 best club teams from around the world. Recharge your subscription today to never miss a moment of a competition like never before. On the move, download StarTimes on and watch every goal, every moment, anytime, anywhere. StarTimes Sports, beyond passion. StarTimes, enjoy digital life.
Provides the inspiration for Leipzig.
Are you passionate about creating a better future for Kenya? So is the I&M Foundation, the social investment arm of I&M Bank. For the past 5 years, they've invested 2% of the bank's annual profit, the highest in Kenya's banking sector, into life-changing programs from education and empowerment to protecting our environment. The I&M Foundation is driving real impact. I&M Foundation, impacting lives, shaping a suitable future, powered by I&M Bank.
The weather with SpiceFM.
Sunny conditions at 15 in Nairobi. It's 17 and sunny in Nakuru, and 16 and sunny in Nyeri. Eldoret at 15 is sunny, while Mombasa at 24 will be sunny through Friday. 26 and partly sunny conditions in Malindi, while at 22 Kisumu is sunny. Kakamega at 18 is sunny this morning. Looking into Kampala at 23, while at 23 Dar es Salaam is also sunny. 5 degrees in Johannesburg, sunny conditions though getting into winter proper, and at 27 it'll be sunny through Mogadishu. 19 and sunny into Addis Ababa, while Lagos is sunny at 26. Kinshasa is cloudy at 24.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
So we're not dealing with too much traffic this morning. As you come off of the Eastern Bypass, that traffic is more or less come to an end. And on Outer Ring, in and outbound traffic through and through, it's going to flow as you get towards the Thika Superhighway. And then speaking of which, as you then approach Survey, that already is starting to dwindle. So we're keeping an eye on traffic and see what's happening this Friday. Uhuru Highway then coming in from the Nyayo Stadium roundabout, heading towards Haile Selassie Junction, is also fizzling out. Westlands, not a problem here at all. As you come through towards the A104 out from Kangemi, and then through on one side towards the Red Hill Link Road, on the other side from James Gishuru, we're doing all right. But we'll keep an eye on all of this and see what happens as we get through Traffic Hour. SpiceFM KE on X, hashtag The Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
18 minutes to 9 o'clock, and Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni is here. And you know, it's interesting because we're combining that which I said just as we're coming to the break, whereby folks are saying, you know what are we doing? Why is it so difficult that something as abhorrent as murder, in the manner in which it was done, we are still fiddling with the idea that perhaps, maybe somebody should be brought to book, or that the person who may have been behind it, who maybe should give way for these questions to be asked and investigations to be done, is holding on to power as though their life depended on it. How is it that we are still having conversations with death? We are sitting and looking at murder, we're looking at impunity, we're looking at mismanagement, we're looking at bad behavior, and we somehow think that we can have a conversation at the same table and that the enemy will not devour us. How?
They say it starts rotting from the head. If we are rotting from the top, then all of us who are under the top will feel covered. If the top was accountable, or those in charge of the management of the country were people who have respect of themselves, then without doubt those serving under them will be fearful of their acts, and especially when they become acts that are condemned by the whole country. You need to even go outside in the boundaries of this country again, what Boniface Mwangi was narrating to us is anything to go by. That would not have been done to a person coming from a country which is respected, or a country with leaders who have a voice that is respected across the country, across the globe. So we've lost many things. We've lost a voice, we've lost respect, we've lost pride, we've lost dignity, all of them at the national level and even at the local level. And again, the thing is that it's very annoying to keep talking about this when somebody is still there. He's going to earn his salary at the end of the month. People are grieving. Others are now coming to say sorry, or I made a call to the family. You making mockery of the whole situation. But of course, when you look at it, what else can we do? Of course, one of the things that I think we should do, and is being done very well by the young people in this country, is to fight for that space. Fight for what it is that you think should be done differently. The fact that they're able to come out and demonstrate like they did yesterday, saves one other life, two other lives, because then there is a little bit of caution that will be perhaps seen when police officers arrest others tomorrow and the day after. So you must fight for the space that was fought for by others. I bring in the issue of multi-party democracy. We remember during the Azimio time, there was a serious attack on the political parties, including Jubilee, ODM, even Wiper. We were being attacked. Why? Because these are the platforms that you use to voice out against some of these atrocities. And the fighting that you see during some of such issues are meant to secure us from this kind of behaviors. So I would encourage everybody to fight for the space you are having. If you're in the judiciary and you're receiving telephone calls as to how perhaps you should make a ruling, fight for that space. If you have anything left for you, if you are leader of a political party like we are, fight for your own parties like we fought for Jubilee. I am able to come and speak about these issues here as Secretary General of Jubilee because I fought for Jubilee for the last couple of years, and I want to thank everybody else who helped us fight along, the whole family of Azimio, led by Raila Amolo Odinga. He was at the forefront, Kalonzo Musyoka, Eugene Wamalwa and Martha Karua. They all fought for Jubilee, the NADCO team. You need every opportunity you have. Fight for that freedom, because it might not be beneficial to you, but it will save the life of another. Then we must really continue saying pole for this, even those young people are taught, and condemn those people who killed them. And we really want to get all of them. They will have to give way. Let me tell you, when Kome allowed the police officers to mistreat us when you are doing Azimio demonstration, he eventually had to resign. And why did he resign? Because of many things, including the fact that now we know he wasn't quite in control of the people who were harassing us. There was another squad that was getting instructions from elsewhere, but he was getting the beating. We were blaming him. So he gave way. What was it? Boynet came out, and I remember going to his office, and he was really rude to us. And on the issue of permits or authority, again we fought. He's still in employment, but no longer doing what he was doing in Nairobi. So we are not going to let Ragat have his way. No. We must continue fighting until at one point we hope this country will wake up to people who can manage our affairs better. And again, we have the constitution. So even Isaac Hassan, one of the senior lawyers in this country, he was there at IEBC, so we know a little bit about his history also. He needs to make sure that IPOA does what is expected of them. If they are effective, every police officer will be very cautious when he is handling you.
Jeremiah,
even the way they arrest you.
I want to make a connection between the institutions that govern any nation. And if we look at Kenya, for example, we know what Parliament, which is made up of National Assembly and Senate, is supposed to do. Now, one of those is representation, right? And because of the fact that you cannot have representation by everybody expressed at any one time at the same time, that is why the system of governance brought in these individuals, so that you have a smaller number of people having taken into mind the thoughts and the feelings and the expressions of their people, that they would be able to go to one place and represent their people. That is why they are there. I'm not even talking about oversight. Okay, maybe in some. I'm not even talking about budget making. I'm not talking about representation. Because essentially in some cases, it would then lead to the legislation or the lawmaking that we are talking about. Is it possible that the heartbeat or the tone or the song that a nation is singing at any one given time would not be able to be represented by the people who were sent there by nature of the ballot to say, you know what, we're not discussing anything else? It can be unprecedented that a time when something like this is happening, and unfortunately has been the color of this for a while, to say we have no other business than to make sure certain things go in a certain way as we represent the people, and because of that we will stop until it does. I would imagine that is the job that is then supposed to be done by these people who represent the larger number of Kenyans. Is it not?
You captured this perfectly well. And that is why we have our institution called the National Assembly, where national leaders assemble to discuss issues that affect the nation Kenya. Unfortunately, the manner in which we have continued electing our representatives, and I have said this in many of our Jubilee forums, we have stopped having national leaders. We now have village leaders, people who are just localized to their own regions. And for as long as Albert Ojwang does not come from your home area, it doesn't affect you. You only make noise, go to the streets when your own constituent has been affected. It doesn't prick your conscience when a person has been. Remember what happened when JM was killed. The people who are more focal were from far away the mountain than those who are within the mountain. It was led by Elijah Mwangare, all the way from the other side, James Olengo and the others. Today, you only hear people from that region, that county, being focal and making all the noise. Why? Because we are not producing national leaders. We are now producing more localized people. Yesterday, you will see what happens in the Senate. When is it yesterday or the day before? The day before, when the issue again was before the Senate. And at the same time, there was a pleasure being given at the command center by SKM, Kalonzo Musyoka, and the former vice president and the others. What did we see? Members, senators would pose a question to the security officers. But since the pleasure that is going on at Karen is from leaders whom they have interest with, they actually left the Senate. They left the greeting of those police officers, and they were supposed to be doing it on our behalf, and went to stand behind people giving us a press statement. That's how the institution of parliament has been demeaned. And again, the first assignment that this UDA government had was to capture parliament by having a force majority on their side, ensuring that members of parliament, both National Assembly and the Senate, don't have a voice, because it is a voice that is paid for. You remember Osoro himself saying, I was giving this amount of money for people to behave in this manner. Koiburi also came on and said the same thing. And these are statements that have been issued by members of parliament, this current parliament. Not to say that it started with this one, but this one to me is notorious for many things. But William was clear in his mind, for me to have my way, I must capture parliament. For me to be able to capture IPOA, which reports to Parliament, to capture EACC, which reports to Parliament, all these independent constitutional commission. For me to be able to manage them, I must manage Parliament. So the institution that has failed us, number one, is members of Parliament. And that is why when Wele was murdered, you saw the reaction of Kenyans. You may be, you sound very unhappy now because one of your own has been killed. But how many people are being killed? Look at this. How is it that we must be told by you in the media that in the last 4 months, 20 Kenyans have died in the hands of police officers? Not a single member of Parliament has gone to the floor to seek. By the way, the standing orders provide for what you have just said.
Yes.
Right.
An opportunity for the Parliament to stop doing everything else and to discuss the issue of Albert.
Yet you see,
and even before that, then it's with your permission. Yesterday, Parliament had the golden opportunity
to stop it all,
given to them by God. They had the budget. They should have objected to the leading of the budget until we have answers to these people.
Absolutely.
But they were there. In fact, what they did is instead of even sitting in Parliament to listen on our behalf, again, the seats were all empty.
Yeah, and it is where I was actually headed, because the National Assembly with 349 seats, we only had around 100 in there, and one would hope this was an opportunity for them to discuss these issues.
They should have stopped the reading of the budget.
Yes,
and
yes.
Today, everybody, because the whole the East African Legion was reading the budget yesterday, you use those opportunities to go get the executive to be responsive to you.
But
and the executive is normally very cautious of such dates and such happenings, because they know that they have to be careful on the behavior of members of. But as it is today, captured.
But SG, as bleak as it seems, as bad as it looks, there has to be a way forward and a solution to all this madness. Let's call it for what it is. For all this madness, it has to end. So which way, Kenya, which way for the citizens of this country to say, finally, we have demanded this and we see something is happening? What will crack that rock?
Remember, again, I keep saying remember, Dennis, and I remember immediately that I might just be telling you, because you are part of our youthful generation that has given us hope in this country, the Gen Z and millennials. We had something called Matatu madness in this country.
Michuki.
Matatu madness. And it took Michuki alone, of course, with the goodwill from the executive and the Parliament, to deal with the madness. He came up with rules. Unajua tulikuwa tunawekwa kama viazi. Unawekwa, and for as long as there was somebody outside wanting to board, there was space inside. It didn't matter whether you are sick, aged, or whatever. But it took him to just say, enough is enough. That's where we are. We will need just that one person to come and say, all this madness, enough.
You know, I think that...
Let's take this direction. Again, we also had the madness of our economic decline during the KANU regime. And Kibaki comes in. We are doing very poorly, negative economic growth. But before he even walks to State House, says, enough, every child must go to school. It will take one individual who has conviction and who is not bothered about personal greed, because for as long as you are asking, what commission am I getting from that tender? You can't help us. The slightest. You need somebody who knows you have only X number of days, months, years to do what you can do and then move on.
Is it time?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it time, even as we come to the end of this, is it time? We say all these things. We say drain the swamp. Is it time to go back to the drawing board and clean everything up and start from the beginning?
It's time for Kenyans to go back to the drawing board and clean everything. Let me tell you, I know this may sound like it's too far from where we are, but it is part of it. You see, now there are many things, including people saying, including myself, saying one term. It's time to change. It's time to. Kenyans, if you listen to Kenyans, kule kwa bosho, you see, now I've remembered that even it's not bosho in my area, it is tunapatiwa kitu inaitwa noe. I don't know whether mnajua noe ni nini. Noe is the soybean.
Okay.
It's Norog. And soybean was not a very respected chakula sana kwa sababu iko na shida yake kwa tumbo. Na ndio inaletwa kwetu. Na wengine wanapatiwa mashini ya kusiaga mahindi na mengine. But that a story for another day. If you talk to Kenyans today, how and especially the younger generation, they are looking at us kama vile tu wanatuona kwa few sasa. Unasema hii, but if you sit with them, they have made up their minds as to what do they want to do. And I have a feeling that they are talking of a clean slate. And we need to be very careful, those of us who are looking for positions or who are viewing themselves as deserving to become XYZ in the coming regime, that the conversation among Kenyans might be a little different.
Moving forward and want to watch.
It is likely to be a clean slate. My position is how I wish we can get a little clean slate that helps us to turn completely to the opposite direction of what is happening today. That is not easy because I want to become XYZ in the next government. You want to, and you're working very hard, and Kenyans are resonating with you. But I hope that when the time comes, we will all be held accountable for things we have done, said in the past, because if we don't do that, it will be very naive of us as Kenyans to expect anything different after the elections.
Jeremiah Kioni, Secretary General of the Jubilee Party, has been here with us this hour. Stuff to think about, isn't it? Good morning at 9:01.
Good morning, this is the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira. PLP leader Martha Karua has urged Chief Justice Martha Koome not to swear in the new IEBC chairperson and commissioners, pending the hearing and determination of a petition challenging their appointment. Writing on X, Karua urged the judiciary not to facilitate disobedience of their orders. On Tuesday, President William Ruto ignored a court order and appointed the new IEBC chairperson Erastus Ethekon and 6 commissioners. High Court Judge Lawrence Mugambi had prohibited the president from gazetting Ethekon as the commission's chair and Ritu Atulala Muhwana, Mary Sarobit, Hassan Noor, Francis Adwal and Fahima Abdallah as commissioners. Activists Boniface Mwangi and Kevin Omondi are challenging their nomination process, citing procedural irregularities, lack of transparency and various violations of constitutional norms. The hearing of the case is scheduled for June the 23rd. Jubilee Secretary General Jeremiah Kioni has demanded the immediate resignation of Deputy Inspector General Police Eliud Lagat over Albert Ojwang's murder. Speaking when he appeared on the ongoing Situation Room show here on SpiceFM, Kioni accused investigative agencies of double standards. He noted that the officer in charge of Nyambo Police Post in Nyandarua County was interdicted after a pregnant woman lost her newborn baby while under arrest.
This month of June, 11th of June actually, uko pande ya Kinangop in my home county of Nyandarua, where this lady lost her child when in police custody. And what transpired there is different from what we are now seeing. The OCS, the officer in charge of that police post, was immediately interdicted. So why the double standard? Why is it that Lagat is still in office? He should have left earlier than yesterday.
Kioni further criticized IPOA for its handling of the case, saying the agency has failed to live up to its mandate.
IPOA are supposed to oversight the police independently. But what I've seen in the last couple of days is members of IPOA being flanked by the police officers. And they're saying we are going to investigate this case. And they're supposed to be dependent of the... In fact, we are receiving reports on what they are doing from the police officers. And for as long as IPOA continues behaving that way, we can expect more police officers to continue corroborating us and killing our young people, killing us.
This comes a day after IPOA announced that the agency will summon Lagat for interrogation of Ojwang's murder. IPOA chairperson Isaac Hassan said since Lagat was the complainant behind Ojwang's arrest, he would be summoned for questioning to determine whether he had a hand in his killing. A number of residents in Lurambi constituency in Kakamega County have claimed that they were denied health care services under SHA after the authority demanded full annual premium payments before providing care. They've called on the Ministry of Health to intervene to ensure that they access health services.
Sasa vile serikali ilikuwa imetangaza tujiandikishe kwa SHA, wengi tumejiandikisha, lakini sasa tumesikitika kwamba maambiwa tena tutakuwa tukihitaji matibabu mpaka ulipe mwaka mzima. Na hapo serikali, tunaomba serikali yetu iruti ndani ya hiyo mambo. Watu wengi hapa mashinani ni wagonjwa, hawataweza kuafford kulipa mwaka mzima SHA. Heri tu iwe monthly vile walikuwa wametangaza mwanzo, na tufate mwenendo ule ulikuwa tunalipa sawa na NHIF.
Kufika reception nikaambiwa nilipe mwaka mzima ndio washughulikie mzee. Nikahuzunika, hata nikasema sasa mbona hivi? Mimi mama tu wa chini mwenye ninalimia watu, nitapata wapi hii pesa yote ya mwaka mzima?
Global oil prices jumped after Israel said it had struck Iran in a dramatic escalation of tensions in the Middle East. Benchmark oil contracts, Brent crude and NYMEX light sweet were up by more than 10% after the news emerged. Traders are concerned that a conflict between Iran and Israel could disrupt supplies coming from the energy-rich region. The cost of crude oil affects everything from the price of food at the supermarket to how much it costs to fill up your car. That's the Newswire. I'm Edwin Lisamira.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
All right, looking into traffic at a few minutes after 9 o'clock, and it's not too crazy in the city this morning, and I think we're doing all right. We had a little bit of a hold up right there on the Thika Superhighway coming in from Survey. That seems to be dwindling, and it's getting closer and closer to the Pangani underpass, and that bumper-to-bumper traffic will come to an end, so yay. Also coming off of Kiambu Road, it's also diminishing as you get towards Muthaiga Square. Landis Road is busy coming in from Jogo, and then out on the other side towards the Kamkunji roundabout, and there is some traffic on Haile Selassie, but then also traffic coming in from Uhuru Highway is going to find its way with some traffic as you then approach the exits of the expressway. But the eastern bypass looks good coming through to North Airport Road, and a little bit of traffic that is going into movement on Outer Ring. So an eye on all of this. We'll see what happens as we come towards the end of traffic hour, and we'll talk and keep things moving on Spice FM KE on X, hashtag the Situation Room.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
At 7 minutes after 9, this is the Situation Room. It's Kenya's biggest conversation, and wherever you're tuned around the country and the region and all across our live streams, good morning and karibu. A question for you: are you passionate about creating or a better future for yourself and also for the country? Well, it's I&M Foundation, and they are also interested in it, the social investment arm of I&M Bank Kenya. So for the past 5 years, I&M Foundation has been making a real difference, insisting and investing a significant 2% of the bank's annual profit, one of the highest in Kenya's banking sector, and one of the biggest commitments into impactful programs. So they've demonstrated leadership, we want to highlight what they've done in terms of environmental conservation, and also have initiatives under other pillars such as education and skills development, economic empowerment, and enabling giving. But today, the I&M Foundation is dedicated to protecting our precious natural heritage through strategic partnerships and community-driven initiatives, ensuring a sustainable future for all. They believe in impact, and are achieving it through focused action. As we renew our pact to keep impacting, learn more about the I&M Foundation and how you can make it potentially collaborate to this. And you can find out more information on IM Bank imbankgroup.com. That's imbankgroup.com/foundation to learn more. And this is powered by INM Bank, whereby you can also do a lot more with your money.
Yes, and INM Bank today is speaking to business owners who are concerned about their bottom line and how to make it even better. And INM Bank says that, do you need capital to grow? Well, we got your back. INM Bank is powering your hustle with the INM Solo Biz account. Now, you can equally just lower your costs with free bank to M-Pesa and Airtel money transfers. You can receive customer payments easily with the Lipa na INM. But there's more. Need to restock? Use Jazza Stock. Fulfilling a big order, get LPO financing. Plus, access unsecured business loans of up to 5 million shillings. Stop just running your business, start growing it. Open your individual or solo biz account today via INM Bank OTG app.
Fantastic. And we, as we normally do, get into the youth perspective at this hour on Friday. And there's so much happening, and of course we talk about how, you know, the word youth and, you know, has been thrown about without us really realizing what it is that we do. So having those conversations necessary for us to do. And as we get into our final conversation this week on the Situation Room, Francis Joroge, Head of Public Policy, IC Law LLP, you'll tell us what that is in just a minute, as well as CPA Brian Nabiswa, who is a finance consultant, are in the hot seats of the Situation Room this morning. Gentlemen, good morning both.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Sante.
We're looking into these conversations. There are many things that have been happening in rapid succession over the last 24 to 12 months. And we're going to go into some of those and look at the place where the country is today. Before we do that, Dennis is going to welcome you with today's proverb from Uganda. And we would like to hear a perspective on that.
Yes, Uganda, also known as the Pearl of Africa. And it is a country with many firsts. You know, it is a country that harbors over 50% of the world's gorillas, has Africa's largest mountain ranges, which is the Rwenzori. I know that because for a fact I was in a Rwenzori dome in Anderson's High School in Eldoret. But then again, also it has rich biodiversity. You know, talk about their big five and whatnot. They are there, and it's also a source of River Nile. So you would say countries like Egypt, which depend on River Nile, equally depend on Uganda to take care of the source of River Nile. And our proverb today: a bird will always use the feathers of another bird to build its nest. A bird will always use the feathers of another bird to build its nest. Tunaanza na wakili. What do you make of that?
Thank you, Dennis and Ndu, for welcoming me today. I think when you say a bird will use the feathers of another bird to build its nest, it's about that you cannot do everything on your own. At a certain point, you require some form of help or assistance from another person or a colleague, and this is why it's important to mix synergies where you cannot complete a task on your own. That's what I think it means.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you very much, Ndu and Dennis. And I'm happy this morning to make my debut on the Situation Room. About the proverb, to me, it's all about teamwork. And a bird needing another bird's feather to make a nest. It's all about we as the people. We need one another for us to prosper in whatever we do.
There you go. Yeah. You need somebody else. You can't do it alone. That maybe what somebody doesn't have use for at this time, or even if somebody would give a little bit of their self, it goes towards a good goal, and that we can actually take, advantage of that in a good way, of course. All right. So, the word youth has been used by progressive, non-progressive governments for the longest time. And the huge responsibility, whether it is on productivity or whether it is on growing the economy, huge responsibility have been put on the shoulders of this age demographic for the longest time. Now, when we want to domicile things in Kenya for the purposes of this conversation, the youth has now almost been a buzzword. It's like, okay, we need to do something. And while we're making, considerations for this thing, we must throw in youth, because if we don't, then we will not be on the right side of rain. See where I'm going? It has become a thing whereby we say, okay, we've created this menu, but if we don't put youth into it, then it's not going to be worth it. So let's throw in youth without realizing what exactly it is that we are saying. Until last year, whereby this large percentage of the population was directly involved in what was going to be governance and how you were going to shape it moving forward. And I'm talking about the anti-finance bill protests that took place. The majority of those who were seen on the street were young people. This number that we are being told about, 70% of Kenya's population being between the age of 18 and 35, etc., even some cases going up until 45, then was front and center in the reality of governance. And then the conversation was, hang on, we can't just talk about them as though they're a number over here. We have to involve them in the conversations that we have towards governance. We saw this happen. But at the same time, in some areas, they're being seen as a nuisance. But we can't do that because we are looking at an all-encompassing population for which governance must be guaranteed, for which a growth of the economy must be taken into consideration, and for which conversations going into the future must be had. So, when we talk about the youth voice, are we still talking about something that's over there in the corner, or have we gotten to the point whereby it's the one that has to lead the conversation? Wakili, we'll start with you.
Thank you so much once again. Just want to mention something that it's quite a big coincidence that you have mentioned today. You spoke about I&M Foundation, and I was part of the beneficiaries a few years ago, and they paid for all my undergraduate fees.
There you go.
Yeah, so when you talk about the youth, you start with the people who are making an impact in the lives of the youth in Kenya.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so going into the political landscape, we have seen 2 years ago, I worked for an international organization. At the time, the only country that people thought there'll be a problem with the youth is Uganda, because Uganda has the youngest youth population. I think the average age of a Ugandan is around maybe 23, 24, as compared to the rest of the world, whereby you'll find the youth averagely at 27, 28. So every international organization was saying there might be a problem in Uganda in a few years because of this young population that is not working, that is not being utilized. So no one ever thought that the problem will be in Kenya. But for us, we don't think of it as a problem. We think of it as a very good thing that Kenyans stood up and said, okay, we are tired of what is happening, and we want something, we want a change. And last year I was on this show, I think during Moi Day, and I remember saying that all of us should be part of this uprising, because there's no difference, there's no different constituency called the youth. I think the youth is part of our daily lives. Everyone has a young child. Everyone has a 23, 24-year-old relative who is at home with no job, probably has not completed school because help is not available, probably will not complete even the basic education because the education system right now is in a mess. So I've never accepted the reality that there is a different constituency that the government needs to take care differently, called the youth. Because when you look at the budget that was read yesterday, when you speak about the main things that the government was considering, agriculture, security, foreign affairs, how does the youth get into that? What aspect of those things of the mainstream do we take care of the youth concerns?
Yeah. And you see, when you talk about conversations around the youth as well, the protest June 25th has been seen as it's a youth movement. It is the Gen Z who are pushing it. I've always maintained that it is Kenyans who are pushing that agenda because it is part of the demography. But yes, while we pay homage to the young people for pushing that, there is the aspect of being involved. There's a question of being at the table. There's a conversation of being listened to and not just being seen, because for a very long time the youth card has been a box where people tick and say voila, affirmative action has taken place. Even as we talk about the budget making process that is ongoing, as much as the youth, the Gen Z's pushed for the finance bill to be thrown out, we see that even this year, still the youth, even when they come up with the ideas on public participation, what happens? You get arrested, you're thrown in because you're making a certain system by parliament crash. So then how do the youth then become part of the process if at every given opportunity there are hurdles?
I think, going by the saying that even over 65% of the Kenyan population now being the youth. So it means that this is the largest composition of the Kenyan population. So when the government or the agencies are pushing to serve the people, they have to remember that we have this particular group that is the youth. Now, if this group is not being served, it means that now the country and the entire population has a problem. Now, looking at going by actually the message that was sent last year, basically around June, the conversation was the majority of the Kenyan population were pushing for a particular conversation in the country, and the conversation were demanding for the better governance, and that better governance was calling for service to this larger part of the Kenyan population, that is even the youths. And the concerns were, and even they are still there, because up to now we feel like this is a group that send a message to those responsible organs that there is a problem in the country. But up to now we still feel that there is little which has been done. The greatest of it was the issue about the employment. The high level of unemployment among this large part of the Kenyan population, which is not unemployed. And we can see how it has a lot of impacts on this larger part of the Kenyan population. Now, we are having a lot of youths who have mental issues. And you look at these mental issues, they're about... It's all about these youths asking themselves, what next? Because the Kenyan system, we have been given free education. Okay, looking at the age bracket. Look at this age bracket of the youths who are on the streets. A good number of them, they are the youths who are given free education by former President Kibaki. They have finished school. Now, after finishing school, what next for these 75% of the people? Now they have come out of the school. They realize that there is nothing they can do. There is nothing for them to do. There is no employment. They have no hope going into the future. Speak of the medical sphere, very poor. So there is no hope. So the kind of depression that these youths had and their feeling was so enormous. So that's why now we ended up pushing for this agenda, which is not yet made. Now, as Ndu put it when we started, there is nothing which comes in place without getting the youths into the conversation. Look at the politician. When during the time of campaigns, it's all about the youths, morning to evening. Look at how this government came in place. It was all about the youths, creating employment, creating, improving education system for the young people. But at the end of the day, when they're in place, they forgot about this population. So the youths of this country, as we speak, it is a neglected group, totally. Starting from the policies, going to the implementation stage of the country's governance and all spheres that our leaders do.
Okay, so we also saw the call for youth inclusive governance. That you're saying, okay, going forward, then there need to be younger people on the table. The question is that what we are looking for? To have a younger demographic of the makeup of leadership? Or are we saying that what you need to do for whomever is in leadership over there, you have to take into consideration this large number of people for which you're not making these provisions like you speak about? Like you speak about, Nabiswa, you speak about unemployment, you speak about access to opportunity and access to credit, such like things. So, Wakili, are we saying include the youth insofar as the opportunities that you provide for them? Or are we saying include them in your leadership and governance portfolio so that we can have these issues addressed? Which one is it? Or is it a combination of the two?
I think for me it's simple. Any person who wants to vie for public office, the only thing that you need to do is to respect and obey the Constitution. The Constitution has given you the roadmap on what is required to do. And one of them is Article 10. Article 10 talks about inclusivity in public governance. If you look at the principles under Article 201, principles of public finance. He talks about openness and accountability. When you respect those principles, there is no way you'll have a dilemma on what you are required to do as a public servant or a state officer with regards to this population called the youth. I can give you an example. There's the president in his call for broad-based government appointed Jacob Fikirini as a principal secretary, I think, of youth or something, and he's I think standard he's a young guy, and I think he's maybe below 30. The job required, I think, 10 years of experience for him to even qualify to be shortlisted. So it's a good thing that he's on the table, but does that help the youth really? I don't think so. I think for you to include the youth to the table, it means including them in the decision-making process, not just appointing one representative or bringing Samuel to an organization. It's about when I want to make the budget, how is this budget inclusive of the issues that the youth care about? What we are seeing and what we'll continue to see in the next few years is if you want to make a certain population happy, you set aside a fund for them. So you have a youth fund. You put maybe 1 billion shillings, and then it goes down, it is dispersed, it disappears with some of the beneficiary. The next year you say this thing is unsustainable, let's get rid of it. The other year you bring a fund for women. You say, okay, this fund, we need to buy some tents, we need to talk about femicide, and then the next year you decide this thing is unsustainable. It has become a game, and it will continue to become a game until the point whereby we tell the politicians, you need to start respecting the constitution. One of the things I've always talked about is the judiciary becoming what do you call it? Part of this game. One of the things that happened when this government came into power was that there are people who went to court to challenge the Hustler Fund, and until today that case has not been heard. So one of the things that people have challenged the Hustler Fund for is that the fund is unsustainable. And we are basically 1,000 days after the president was sworn in, and we have seen 5 billion has been lost. Basically, the president has lost 5 billion. If that was a private organization, that man will have been flogged in public. So the question that the president is coming up with a fund for everything that he discovers the youth are suffering from. Tomorrow there'll be a fund for rehab. The other day there'll be a fund for something. That is basically playing games with Kenyans.
And you see, we talk about solutions and the funds that are being put in place and whatnot, yet we recognize the fact that the country where we are at the moment, all that is needed is, because the president himself said we will invest more on what? Input, manufacturing and whatnot. And you look at what that would do to a population of the young people that, Brian, you say are unemployed, and that would open opportunities for young people to find a meaningful employment, because that is also one of the ticket items that Kenyans went to the streets to complain about. But as we sit today, it is a Hustler Fund. Questions around it, like you've rightfully said, the matter is still in court, and 5 billion is lost. Young people pushing for proper accountability, and no one really seems to care. So in terms of political goodwill in ensuring that the constitution is respected, what will it take from an eye of a young person?
Okay, looking at the workability of the constitution and the policies are there in this country, when you look at it closely, sometimes we tend to agree that all the policies and even the constitution we have, sometimes it's just good on paper, because implementation has always been a problem. So even the youth bracket, if you look at the constitution itself, sometimes I really struggle to identify the clause in the constitution which clearly talks about the youth issues to the fully, which the youths can cling on to demand what is right for them. Like even now, talk of if like the women, our mothers, have been given an opportunity that today they must be represented in all the 47 counties, where in those offices where the issues and rights can be defended. But now for us, the youths, today, it's all the only thing we cling on is the right to picket and go to the streets to demand for what is ours. Because you look at that article, is it 55, which talks about the youths. It only talks about the protection from harm, being given basic education. But now when it comes to demand to what belongs to the youth, that is service delivery in terms of being involved in leadership. Today, I cannot go and demand that the position of the youth in government or in cabinet has to be there. On which ground will I go to demand that one? It's not well stipulated, but we can only achieve that through picketing, through demonstration, or maybe presenting the petition. So we, the youths of this country, only there is no support from people who are in leadership, who ought to have to protect us.
Do you think that the people in leadership who then stand at a potential risk of having their positions taken from them really are going to support the person who is a threat to the position?
And that has always been my thinking, that the people who are in leadership always feel that the youths of this country is a threat to them in terms of leadership, because they know if they give a youth an opportunity to get to the main table of decision making, they are seen, or they are actually a threat to them. That's why now they don't want to ensure that the youths get a chance to get to the decision-making table. They don't get that opportunities which will give them an empowerment to get where they want to be. So even looking at the time of politics, when in terms of campaigns, we don't have that clear framework or clear policies which will give the young people of this country an opportunity to get a leeway into elective posts, be it nominations, because when it comes to nomination, we only have maybe one position or two, but that grounds, the developed grounds where the youths can stand on and demand for their rights and go for whatever they need in this country is close to minimal. We comes to this issue of curbing the funding, campaign fundings. They know that is where now they beat the youths, because we know that the Kenyan youths, most of them are broke. They cannot run campaigns. So, and for them, they have an added advantage because they have resources. So when it's said that actually those who are in leadership already or in parliament to bring this policy to curb the campaign fundings and resources, they will not do that because they know if they bring a level playground, it's a big threat to them. Now, when we speak of the youth empowerment, for me, I don't feel like giving a youth a position to serve is enough. What the youth of this country need is full empowerment. Let there be, as currently there have been a conversation about digital highway. Let it be there. There have been a conversation about improving the youth fund. Because for me, I don't see the reason why we have a hustler fund, which is opaque, and diminish the youth fund, which should be there to empower the youths directly. So what actually should be there is give the Kenyan youth an opportunity rather than just appointment and leaving at that. Because when you give my friend in Njoroge a position, that is okay, it's a good thing because it shows goodwill that you are recognizing the youth. But that is not enough for us as the youth of the country.
Okay, let's take a break and then we're going to come back and discuss whether bread and butter issues then are coming in, direct contravention with what position young people should actually be taking. And I'm going to put that against some facts in history that we actually do have. We'll come back from that and then discuss those. Francis Njoroge is head of public policy at an IC Law LLP, and CPA Brian Nabiswa is a finance consultant. We'll come back and we're asking from the youth perspective today. We're saying, okay, give young people a position of leadership. We'll come back with examples of people who didn't get to be given. They took it. Before that, Woolies has offers for you this weekend, don't they?
Yes, it has offers for you, and it also recognizes that getting a gift for your father is a very difficult thing, simply because even the conversation we had earlier, they just don't talk, to know what they really want is really difficult. But Woolworths is telling you this year that has to change. They have got the cheat code, and let's make Father's Day iconic. But how do we do that? Woolworths is giving you 30% off men's sleepwear, knitwear, jackets, and coats until 16th of June. So hurry, and go get yourself and get to your father the very best gift now. So whenever your dad is in the stay cozy type or the step out looking sharp kind of person, you'll find the perfect gift for your father. Let's make this Father's Day extra special. Visit your nearest Woolworths store and get him something he low-key love, the high-key brag about. Now, terms and conditions apply. 16th is the deadline, and Woolworths, the difference.
Because all impact begins with a part. I&M Foundation, celebrating 5 years of impact. Powered by I&M Bank.
Great! This June, the biggest Club World Cup ever held is here. The 2025 FIFA Club World Cup. Recharge your subscription on your current bouquet for 2 months and get upgraded free to the next higher bouquet for 60 days. A competition across the continent. 30 action-packed days of top-notch football from 32 best club teams from around the world. Recharge your subscription today to never miss a moment of a competition like never before. On the move, download StarTimes on and watch every goal, every moment, anytime, anywhere. StarTimes Sports, beyond passion. StarTimes, enjoy digital life.
Provides the inspiration for Leipzig.
The weather with SpiceFM.
All right, so looking at sunny conditions in Nairobi currently, and we'll see highs of 25 through Friday. 18 and sunny in Nakuru, 18 and sunny conditions in Nyeri, while it's sunny at 18 in Eldoret. We're looking into a sunny Mombasa at 26, while it's sunny at 26 into Malindi. It's sunny at 24 in Kisumu, with sunny conditions at 23 in Kakamega. Kampala is sunny at 24 and going to highs of 27, and we'll see highs of 30 in a sunny Dar es Salaam. 9 degrees and warming up in Johannesburg, sunny conditions, while Mogadishu at 27 is sunny. Addis Ababa at 21 is sunny as well. Partly sunny at 26 in Lagos, with cloudy conditions at 24 in Kinshasa. We're looking into a sunny Beijing at 31, going towards the early afternoon in Beijing. It's 23 in a mostly sunny Paris, and getting into the summer, it's 19 and sunny in London. We're around this now to New York, where it's cloudy at 23.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. Spice FM.
Spice up your life.
All right, so we're coming out of the end, to the end of traffic hour this morning. It hasn't been too crazy this Friday. Going into the weekend, we don't usually see much, but I don't think we see any trouble spots, unless you're on Landis Road and you're trying to get towards Kamkunji, and that's slow, bumper to bumper through and through from the junction of Jogo Road out towards the Kamkunji junction. That is very slow, and there's a little bit of a hold up still at the Pangani underpass. And as you come off of Kangunda Road and touch on Outer Ring, there is some traffic here as well. So we're going to keep an eye on all of this, likely to get a little bit stickier. But through the morning, talk to us. Spice FM KE on X.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
23 minutes to 10 o'clock, and our conversation around the youth perspective this hour is asking the questions. And it's just interesting because as we talk with Brian Nabiswa and Francis Droge, one of the questions that you say is that youth should be given, one of the things that you said, that you should be given these opportunities. Young people should be given these opportunities to then see what they'll be able to do, which could make sense. You know, we have things like affirmative action, that without things like affirmative action, you will then not see people in particular positions. This happened with women. They said, you know what, give women a chance, where traditionally women were not in positions of leadership because, you know, whatever, culture, tradition, whatever the case may be. And that's where the idea of affirmative action came. They said, you know what, if you don't force a situation, you're unlikely to see the benefits of it, because otherwise people are not going to make the choice, right? And so after affirmative action has taken place, you then are able to see, okay, you know what, this you have seen has happened. So leave some seats whereby women will then be able to fill them naturally, but then leave others up for elective post, right? And we're essentially saying that young people have something to offer. Younger people have something to offer towards governance, right? And leadership. But the likelihood of giving them an opportunity is going to be difficult because nobody's going to give up their spot, right? So should we see affirmative action then happen for youthful positions in the country? Should we?
Actually, that is my take personally. Just as you put it, we look at the history of this country going back like let's say 15 years ago or 10 years 20 years ago back, we could only find 2 or 3 women elected leaders in parliament. But after the new constitution dispensation, after we got the new constitution and created the position of 47 women representative, you can see currently we have over 6 governors just because they were given a chance through affirmative action. So that is what now we as the young people of this country are asking, that let us have that opportunity. You know, they say that we have to grab the opportunity. But the problem of this country, the moment now of trying to grab the opportunity, you are seen as rebels. We can see, just like what happened last year, we were looking for an opportunity to raise our voice for what was not going right in the country. But at the end of the day, you see the kind of force that the state agencies retaliated to curb us. So when we say that now let the youths of this country stand and push for it, it will not go well. So
how?
It is.
I want to hold you there. Okay. How will it not go well?
I'm just giving an example of what happened last year, because this category of the young people championing for the better governance of this country. We saw what happened, how the police forces tried to curb it, because the only opportunity, the only chance that this country, the young people have to push for their rights is through demonstration.
We also saw a situation where young people, having been given an opportunity to stand, then were also compromised and made decisions about which direction that they were going to go. So can those two sides share the same platform? When on one hand we're saying give people an opportunity, but on the other hand we're saying people then also get compromised when they get into the fold. How do we play the balance?
You see, I sometimes I like using a Swahili phrase which says that kwenye safari ya mamba hapakosi mburugenge. So you look at, youths have been given an opportunity to serve in this in some capacities, even if it's 1% or 2%. We have those who have done tremendously well, that we can say that give us an opportunity because so and so was given a chance and he has done well. We can look even in this country, look at the youngest, the young members of parliament. We have some who are doing well. We have some who are not doing well, a few who are not doing well. So taking an example of many who are doing well, now banking on that, we can say that when the young people of this country when they are given an opportunity, they can serve this country better. I always use an example of some of the members of parliament we have, like the former chair of budget, what he's doing in his constituency, Keharu. Look at Babu Wino, they are doing well. Even if we have some who we can say they have compromised their position given, those are few. But now, what we say is the personal responsibility of the young people when they are given a chance. Now, speaking of the young people, remember we are speaking of the largest population of this country.
Largest percentage.
Yes, the largest percentage of the Kenyan population. So we say that let them be given an opportunity. But for those who will not use that opportunity well, they have to be held accountable for their actions, which are, if they are not good, they have to be held accountable. But we cannot be judged when we have not been given fully opportunity to exercise what we have to do. Just like sometimes we try to take a case study from our other African countries. You see, like, we have African countries who have produced best leaders, and those leaders were given a chance at their youth league. Look at South Africa. South Africa, right now, the Secretary General of ANC was the leader of the youth league at some times back. Look at Nelson Malema. He was the chair of the youth league. And even if he has not tried and not gotten the chance to lead, but he has given a very good opposition, which is giving checks to the government. If we come back to our country, Kenya, at the time when the young people of this country were so vibrant, speak of the likes of James Orengo, speak of the likes of Raila Odinga and other leaders like former CJ Mtunga, actually, they were trying to get a chance and their voice were being heard, even if they received some brutality in that cause. But they are the people we can say that if the youths have given a chance, they can do great things for the country.
Talking about the chance that you talk about, there is also the idea that power is never given. Power is taken.
Yes.
And the individuals that you talk about and the opportunities and chances that they are given, you look at the organization that went into them fighting for that space, which then brings the question in terms of the young people in the country, the youth, and the need to be organized and push the agenda is equally centered to making sure that the things that you're talking about in this room are actually fought for and received. Because as Ndu has rightfully said, those that are ruling the country, those that are in those positions of power, will not sit back and say, the youth have gone to the streets, maze shika. That would never happen, which then brings about the conversation on 75% of the population, the young people. Power will not be given, it will be taken. Then how does the young people organize and plan to take that power back, Wakili?
I've never believed that power should be given at all. I've never believed in that theory. I think if you want something and you want it so bad, you will fight for it. You'll go to the streets and kneel down. I remember when the doctors were protesting last year that some of the intern doctors have not been posted. I went there. I went to the Ministry of Health to join them, and that is what you do when you believe in a cause. But if you're waiting for someone to throw down something to you, that is not the way to go as a Kenyan. I remember I was in a group of tech professionals in Kenya, and someone was advising that after the lady was arrested for creating a website, someone was advising, when you are creating a tech for supporting Kenyans, don't put your name on it, don't reveal your true identity. And I was strongly objecting to that. I was saying, if you are doing something good, if you are doing something reasonable to Kenyans, why should you hide your identity so that you protect yourself from the state? And one of the things we forget, the state has only two roles. One is to protect life, and another one is to protect property. The rest of the things that they do just comes secondary to those two roles. So when we are here today and we are in a situation whereby there is a life of a young man which has been lost and has been lost through the force of the state, then it means you have lost your first main role as a government. You do not have any other role or anything. So when it comes to the youth, how does those two roles of the state apply? Most of the young people do not have any property. They have not gotten to the place where they have bought even their first car. So as a state, your primary role should be protecting life. But what we are seeing today is that already, even without going deep into the newspaper, apart from the late Albert Ojwang, there's a lady who lost a child in Nyandarua, in a police cell. So if the state is going to tell us the police cell walls have killed these two lives, then we as the youth do not have an opportunity. Even we cannot even reach to the point where we're asking for leadership because we are not even alive. So my main point today is that if you're going for public office, if you're going to state office, just ensure that you can protect life and property. And how does it even apply to the presidency of William Ruto? And we had the budget, and one of the things I have a problem with the president is, yes, you have a nice budget, it's colorful, it's 4.2 trillion shillings, it looks really good, the numbers look very well, but how does it affect the common mwananchi? And I'll give you an example. There's a governor, I think, was it Samburu, a former governor of Samburu, who was arrested, and I think he was sentenced to jail, I think for around 30 years, for diverting the county funds to his own petrol station. But when it comes to the national budget, we don't care. We are like, the president can do whatever he wants. So for instance, if the president diverts, if there is a parastatal that is holding a hospitality gig and they decide to divert that money to the president's own hotel, why don't we speak about it at the same length we spoke about the governor? If the president decides to divert all the advertisements in all the media houses to his own national newspaper, why don't we talk about those things? I think it has reached a point we talk about the youth as if the youth are affected about different things from the rest of the community.
This is it.
And the truth is, we are affected by the same things you and I are affected by.
Absolutely. So the thing is that the question should be, should we be making a separation when we say, well, because there is a youth agenda and they have this unique thing? I dare say that unemployment, hunger, poverty, lack of infrastructure, lack of adequate medical resources, lack of a proper and efficient education system affects everybody. So, because we say that the largest percentage of a particular population shouldn't have the larger voice, should we actually then, and these are the real conversations, should we sit and wait for these things to happen if we really do care about something enough? And this is where the examples of history come in, and we ask ourselves the questions. Kwame Nkrumah became Prime Minister of Ghana when he was 42. Thomas Sankara was a leader at the age of 33. Patrice Lumumba became Prime Minister when he was 34. Traore, that we're all shouting about today, is 37. Nobody is, everybody is in that bracket that we talk about. But interestingly enough, they didn't become leaders. They didn't wake up today and become leaders. They went through a struggle. So what does that mean? That these ages that we talk about, that they were much younger when they began. It was not rosy for them. They were thrown into jail countless times, threats upon their lives, all manner of things happened to them when they did that. Now, it is not the comparison in age and opportunity that we are talking about, but we are looking at the possibility. And that possibility is what shines the light to say that, we can do the thing, because the experiences of these gentlemen are etched in history forever. And that we say that there's something that they did that remains alive today. So the question is, how hungry are we to say that these things that affect the 90-year-old grandmother, grandfather is affecting the 3-year-old baby or the 5-year-old baby that we saw died yesterday, for example? These are examples that we're talking across board. So my question becomes, because we are saying that the larger percentage of the population is within a particular age demographic, do they bear the responsibility of being the loudest voice when it comes to getting things done? And that's a question for both of you. We'll start with you, Nabiso.
Yes. I sometimes look at our country. You look at other countries in our African setup. It has been all about goodwill. And this goodwill comes in place whereby those who are in the table, always they're focused about, it's like they don't think about who is not on the table. That is the problem. Because if we can speak about the likes of Kwame Nkrumah, we can speak of Mwalimu Julius Nyerere, Patrice Lumumba, you see, there existed some of the an amount of goodwill from their state. But
if anything, there was huge conflict. There was huge opposition, and that is why their voices rose up. The people that they received any kind of goodwill from was the people on the other side, not the people who were in state.
Okay, that is my point. Both the people who are outside, like in this country, in the society, I know Njoroge will tell you, probably maybe he comes from a place which is, I can say, a bit enlightened. Today, you go to a society where I come from. However good you do in terms of fighting for democracy, fighting for their rights in the society, but people will judge you by the age. How old are you? Are you able? Okay, the question is always, you are still young to lead from the community at some point. They will tell you that, wait, your time will come. So this is also the kind of goodwill I'm talking about. Sometimes we lack goodwill in terms of given an opportunity to get there. Also, we lack an opportunity from the ground we come from. We have a community where...
For support, not opportunity.
Yes, support. We come from a community where if a young person goes for an elective post, people will not look at him on what he can deliver, what the agenda is. People will look at him in terms of age. Is he married or not? Does he have resources? So this is where the disconnect is. Now, the Kenyan setup, I dare say that the Kenyan setup, it's a society whereby people will judge you depending on your age, depending on the resources you have, depending on they'll not look at the wisdom and what you can achieve, what you can deliver. So this is the disconnect. So this is now where we call upon those people who have a chance to ensure that they can create an opportunity. The same way they did for affirmative action for our mothers, our Kenyan women, they can create an avenue, an environment for us to achieve what has never been achieved. And when we get that affirmative action as the youths being given an opportunity, I think Kenyans will be enlightened and say, oh, this is a group which we have been ignoring, and they can deliver, they can give something tangible to the country, Kenya. Now, there is a conversation which is always there, that power is taken. I can look in this country, our country, Kenya, I can look at it in two perspectives. We have a religious ground, and we can talk about the Kenyan ground. Now, on a religious ground, power is taken is whereby you showcase what you can do through struggle, and then at the end of it, you can take it. But now in the Kenyan setup, when someone says power is taken, it means that taking by force. Because we have seen instances where the Kenyan election has been rigged, and the conversation is power is taken. So it means you take by force through rigging, through all manner of dubious ways. So now if we say that the Kenyan youth to stand on the ground that power is taken, it becomes a problem, because one, you cannot take power in Kenya. That is taking through dubious means, through by force, because you don't have resources to get those people who will assist you to get. So it's a good phrase that power is taken, but in the Kenyan setup, I don't think that it works.
Can't the youth take advantage of the numbers that they have and finally say, because of the numbers that we have, because we are the majority, and therefore, whether we like it or not, we are taking this power? We're not saying through extra constitutional means, but taking advantage of the numbers that are there, the youth to organize themselves and say, we are taking this power because we've tried to push the normal way. It is not working. And the only way for some sense to get in is for us to go for these elective positions and ensure that we take power. Is that something that can be done in this country?
My colleague here is saying power cannot be taken, and I'm asking why not? Why not? Asking the president to resign is not an extra constitutional means. It is something contemplated under the constitution, that at some point you can get tired of the man and tell him, you do not make sense at all, so go home, go back to Sugoi. And for a fact, I'm not from an enlightened place, I'm from Eldoret, which is
homeboy.
Okay. I'm part of the constituency that voted for the president, so it means I'm also suffering from something. So one of the things, and Ndu pointed it out, is there's something we call policy incoherence in government. And when my friend here speaks about free education, I think you have hosted so many panelists who have spoken to you and told you free education is just a mirage. It's just a name. If you dig down and you realize the amount of contribution the country gives to education is very minimal. For instance, I think I visited a school here in Isili, and the amount the school is given by government per child for the staff, what do you call them? The non-teaching staff is 6 shillings per child for a whole year. The government contributes 6 shillings for every child to pay non-teaching staff. So when you dig deeper, everything that the government tells you that they have done is such a mirage. So another issue you look at that is quite affecting the youth, and which is being used as a tool to pull the youth towards the government, is housing. So this government is telling you, we cannot afford to build a road from Nairobi to Nakuru. It has not even gotten to 300 kilometers. The government is telling you, we cannot do that. We need private financing. We need to toll that road. for us to make money. But the same government comes to you on the other hand and tells you, okay, we can afford to build you a house, we can afford to build you markets, we can afford to do all these other things. So you're asking them, why do you have such a policy incoherence that one, you cannot do your job, but you want to do our job for us and you'll do it better than us. So I think we have a very confused government, and the youth went to the streets last year not because they were dissatisfied with the government at large. It's because the government was not making sense, and it's a good thing to tell the government, you are not making sense, let us help you to make sense for you. So I don't think we should sit down and wait for the government to tell us that it's our time to take power. I think the youth should go back to the streets. That's the only cure to this problem.
You know, the average age of a member of parliament today is 48 years old. You know, that goes to tell you that individuals who are there are relatively just off the youth bracket, and the only thing is the decisions that have been made on a personal level have not gone into helping the situation even better. Perhaps it's a conversation on being organized, being intentional, and changing the situation, because if the youth don't do it for themselves, who's going to do it?
You see, the problem is, you know, the amount of let me put it this way, the level of poverty among the youths, the Kenyan youths, is so high, such that during the electioneering period, whereby actually the youths have a chance, they have an opportunity to say that we can stand for our own because we are the majority. But the problem is, now these youths will turn up going for the candidate who is the highest bidder. And this candidate who is the highest bidder definitely is not the youths, because it doesn't have resources. And you see, even right now, even the conversation that has been there, that the Gen Z factor will play high in the coming election. But now it's really slowly shifting away, because you look at the current opposition formation, the larger composition of their meetings, they are the Gen Zs and the young people. Where is now that conversation whereby we said we will not support these older people who have failed this country, but we will stand for ourselves. So the level of poverty amongst the youths is the greatest undoing that we shift to support the people who are not supposed to be in power.
Question then is, what does the nation want, and what does this large demographic upon which responsibility is placed, what do we actually want? And I think we can continue to have conversations to answer that question. Thank you, both of you, for being here this morning. Francis Njoroge is the head of public policy, IC Law LLP, and CPA Brian Nabiswa, finance consultant. We've been having a conversation on the youth perspective this morning, conversations that cannot stop. It's been a heavy week, folks, and from all indications, the next coming days will be just so. We'll be here to continue in this discourse, and thank you for keeping it the Situation Room this week. Getting into the weekend, have a lovely one. Take care of yourselves and of each other. Good morning at 10:01.